Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Oh, the Browns' two-game West Coast road trip starts with an L. Not a good feeling on this Monday, but hey, they're still 7-4, still in the thick of things in the AFC. The question is, how many healthy bodies are they going to have moving forward from the Denver loss? Wow. I looked at the list of names, guys. It ain't pretty.
Yeah.
And it probably isn't going to be much better for the Rams game. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Too bad that the Browns couldn't pull out a win in Denver. But, as they say, the show must go on, no matter who's the quarterback. Shotgun reactions from the loss. G. Bush, I'm going to save you for last. You're simmering right now.
Really?
I'm going to save you for last. I think you're going to go nuts.
I am simmering? I don't know if I was simmering too much.
I don't know. I was reading some of the texts this morning that you sent last night.
Oh, and I was hot. I was hot in the moment. I was hot in the moment. But yeah.
Okay. Bull, what do you got?
So obviously the biggest story of the day, besides the loss, is the injuries. You referenced it already. I think we're all going to be holding our breath to see what's going on. But the reality in terms of quarterback is that I thought DTR was actually playing okay until he got hurt. And then when he got hurt, the entire game fell apart from there. And then every key guy after that just kept getting hurt. And DTR, it's possible he's going to play this week, but I don't think a single quarterback has cleared. Well, that's not true. Brock Purdy is the only quarterback that has cleared concussion protocol within the same week of an injury. So we'll hope. If not, it's going to be Joe Flacco, Jason.
Oh, dear God in heaven.
That's what it's come to.
I can't believe that's where we are, but that's where we are. And, there's 100 different ways we could spin this. And, Bull, I agree. I actually thought DTR's touchdown drive was his coming out party. And I just tweeted, we're going to be talking about that drive for weeks. He was feeling himself. He was gaining confidence. And then he was dead on the field. And it's like, seriously, guys, why can't we just have nice things? But I'm actually going to go a different direction. I never thought they were going to win this game. I picked them to lose on Friday's show. So I'm not overly traumatized by it. And I still think everything's right there in front of them. It was always a race to 10. It's still a race to 10. There's still 3 more wins on this schedule. So I'm not ready to throw everything overboard, hit the panic button and all that stuff. It's going to be okay. This was always a tough game. This was always a tough place to play, a tough venue. So it's really not the end of the world.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's certainly not time to hit the panic button. However, I know it's a race to 10. Things are getting pretty muddied in the AFC playoff picture. Denver, we had dirt on them. They've turned it around, completely turned it around.
That could turn out to be a pivotal tiebreaker.
Because if it comes down to Denver and the Browns, they lose out because of that loss.
But you beat Indy, so you have the tiebreaker over Indy, and you got a huge win looming with Houston because Jacksonville's probably going to win the division after yesterday.
It looks like it.
So the Jacksonville, while it's a big one, Houston is even bigger in terms of tiebreakers.
Yeah, they've got to win the Houston game. As I look forward on the schedule, that's the one I've got circled.
Yeah.
I like you, I thought they would lose the Broncos game. They're just a hot football team right now. Denver is playing really good football. It's hard to believe this is the same team that gave up 70.
I know.
Because you talk about a team grabbing itself by the bootstraps and picking itself up. This team has done that. Hats off to Sean Payton. Don't know how he's done it. He kept that crew together when it looked like they were tearing apart at the seams.
And I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but go back to what Mike talked about with this 6-pack of stats on Friday, and he told you this defense since the Miami game is a completely different defense, and he rolled out the numbers, and that's the defense that we saw on Sunday. It wasn't Miami. It was the way that they've played since Miami.
Yeah, the last point I'll make before I'll hand it over to G. Bush, and I think this will probably pivot well into Garrett's comments. You got to know your opponent. You got to know what they do well, and you have to know what they don't do well. And what they didn't do well is stop the run. And why they thought they were going to go into Denver with a very green and inexperienced quarterback and throw the ball all over Mile High and come back with a victory, I'm perplexed by that. I am absolutely flummoxed as to why the game plan was so aerial. Even in the fourth quarter, when it's a 17-12 game, even at that point, when you looked at the numbers, they were way out of balance. 2 throws for every run. And you're in that game up until that point. Serious questions about the play calling. But these people that are calling for Stefanski's job, simmer down. They're 7-4. He threw an egg. There's no doubt about it. And I think if you gave him truth serum, he would tell you he screwed that one up yesterday. But it's one game. They've got to regroup. They've got to come back against the Rams, which, by the way, it's going to be no easy task now that Williams is healthy, and they look like they can run all over everybody right now. Garrett.
Yeah, listen, you look at the rest of the schedule, and there's a funny way that these things play out, right? These things play out like this. You look at a situation when you play the schedule game, you should win that game, you can win this game, you can win that game. But this is the NFL. And the way the NFL works is injuries are part of everything that you're doing. So now you look at the schedule moving forward. A lot of people said, I thought it was going to be a tough game. I picked the Browns to win. But with the way they came out and the game plan they had, I think it put them behind the 8 ball. You look at the schedule moving forward, the Texans are a good football team. Texans are good. Jacksonville is a good football team. The Rams now have Kyron Williams back. It looks like they got Matt Stafford back, and they played well yesterday. You watch the Cincinnati Bengals. They didn't roll over and die for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As you look at all these games, these teams are going to be way tougher opponents because you do not have a quarterback. You don't have the quarterback situation figured out. And which brings me to the thesis. The Cleveland Browns, sometimes it feels like the Browns feel that if they win an ugly game by running the ball and playing solid defense, that they've earned the right the next game to just throw the ball all over the park. That's not an option. Like right now, you have to look at what you got in your stables. You got a guy who's carrying the ball, 7.6 yards per carry, and he only gets the ball, I believe, 9 times. If you look at the run to pass ratio, the Broncos were the home team with the better, more healthier roster, and they came out with the hotter quarterback and ran the ball more than the Browns did with a rookie quarterback. This is just what you're going to get. There are times Kevin Stefanski can play a dangerous game like he did last week, right? And then you come back this week, and the game plan is just different. So for me, the Browns have to look at the mirror and say, okay, if we have this roster, if we don't run the ball and we don't play a certain style of football, we're not going to win these games. It's not as if the Browns are getting healthier, if they're going to get more help, and they're not going to get any more quarterbacks. They have to play a certain type of style to win. That's not optional. I just think they didn't do that in the beginning of the game, and it cost them.
McNuggets, you got to read?
Yeah, it was a tough day yesterday, and we're going to get into everything. But first, a word from our friends at FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, brand new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. That could be a basketball bet, a baseball bet, a hockey bet, a football bet, a bowl game bet, anything you can bet on. $5 moneyline bet wins you $150 for new customers. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is so simple to use, so easy, and they have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We showcased this winning ticket last week. I messed up the name on it. This one comes from Akron Dre Day, and this was from the Tuesday Cavs 76ers game. I had to give him a little extra love because I messed it up last week, but he turned 2 $30 parlays into $932. Nice. This last one hit a 7-part same-game parlay with Evan Mobley, Tobias Harris, Max Strus, Evan Mobley rebounds, Tyrese Maxey points, Garland points, and Embiid points. All hit the over. That $15 parlay ended him with $687. He had another $15 parlay that won about $300. So Akron Dre, my bad last week, but congratulations. That is $30 into $930. If you have a FanDuel ticket that wins, make sure you tweet it at us, email it at us, and we will feature it on the show.
Just a kid from Akron doing pretty well on the FanDuel app. That's not bad. 30 and a 932. All right, we talked about the game plan a little bit. I touched on it. Thoughts from you guys. The 42 passes, 16 handoffs, I believe, or at least attempted
16
handoffs.
running back runs.
16 running back runs.
Yeah.
Handoffs to the running backs.
Right.
They had a couple of other mixed in there.
Yeah.
What do we think about that distribution?
I thought, they should have run it more. Yeah, clearly. I can get behind that. They should have run it more. I also think there was a lot more beyond just handing the ball off that went wrong. the tackles are getting exposed, especially on the left side. Jaron Christian had a miserable day.
Yeah, he is who we thought he was.
Yes, and between the false starts and the holds and giving up the sacks, just a ton of drops again. The drops are just turning into criminal, and you can't have that when your margin of error is as thin as it is, and that they just got absolutely gashed in the run game. I don't know that we saw that coming. So it went well beyond just they didn't hand the ball off enough, and yeah, I would agree with that. I do think they needed to run it more, and we'll get into the play that everyone lost their mind over, the Pierre Strong reverse.
Yeah.
I was texting with Tyvis this morning because I didn't go to Denver. I'm here. And so I wasn't in the locker room after the game, and it's too early to text anyone now. Everyone was traveling yesterday, so I haven't talked to anyone around the team. But I texted Tyvis this morning, and really the blocking broke down on that play pretty badly, and we can get into it a little bit later. And that it had no chance of working. Oh, you want to do it now? We can just do it now.
We're here. Might as well do it.
All right,
yeah.
let's do it now. So the Browns had 3-on-2. And if you want to pull this up on your own, you can probably pull it up and go a little bit slower on it. But they had 3-on-2 on the right side to block them, and DJ Jones just made a great play. And Tyvis said he thought they were expecting him to go inside, and he went outside on Wyatt. You'll see it here. He does the swing move outside on Wyatt, and he blows the whole thing up. And I think Pierre fumbled it because he saw he was about to get blown up.
It was a pressure pitch.
Yeah, and
100%.
because ultimately you're asking a running back to catch a pitch. That's not a tall task. Like, you're a running back. Catch a toss, catch a pitch. But I think he saw DJ Jones had actually blown it up, and Teller let him go, and that's the part I'm confused on, because normally if Wyatt misses a block, he's going to turn his head, he's going to turn around and try and chase him, chip him, do something, and Wyatt just seemed to release him and let him go. And Tyvis felt like he just, because of the outside swim move, if he goes inside, Pierre has enough speed to catch that
Doesn't
end.
have the angle then.
Yeah,
Yes.
then Pierre catches the end. They just need PJ to just throw almost like a basketball screen pick on the defensive end, and you should have a big play. DJ Jones, great defensive tackle, made a great play. And that's really what it comes down to. And Tyvis's point was like, Denver should have known something was up right away because they haven't run a play with Elijah Moore in the backfield in 7 weeks. So when you see Elijah Moore in the backfield and Pierre's out wide, that sends your radar, something's up, where if they reverse those roles, maybe you have a better chance of pulling this off. But as soon as they see Elijah lined up in the backfield and Pierre's flanked out to the wide,
dead giveaway.
That's a radar that something is up. So I didn't love the play call either, but really I think the breakdown was on the blocking and the fact that DJ Jones probably read it right away, and the fact he goes outside swim move on Wyatt rather than playing it inside, which the Browns are expecting him to play inside, really prevented that from having any chance of working.
The Browns had two trick plays or different plays that went wrong. Obviously, the Harrison Bryant fumble. That's a play they run all the time. But I'll say this: like, every time a trick play goes wrong for your team, it usually is a disaster.
Yes.
If you try a reverse, if you try a double reverse, it's a disaster. I in general love trick plays, and usually don't have a problem with Kevin Stefanski. I've almost never criticized him for trick plays. I hated this one because of what you said. It was obvious that they were doing something. Pierre Strong hadn't even been in the game for the most part, and I didn't like in that situation with a quarterback who just came in and a running back who hasn't played all day, and you've set it up in an obvious way because, as you said, Elijah Moore hasn't been in the backfield at all in the last few weeks. I didn't like it. Plus, it wasn't blocked well. I thought it was a bad decision. Overall, people losing their minds every time there's a trick play, every time a trick play doesn't work, is ridiculous. Of course, they're sometimes not going to work, and when it doesn't, it looks bad. I think this one specifically is fair criticism when you make it a whole overarching thing that, these trick plays, they never work. Yeah, they do. You just forget the ones that do work.
I sent you a link yesterday. Shane Steichen in Indy was called a wizard because on 4th and 1, they faked the handoff, and he throws it. It is a great play. It goes for 11, 12 yards. On 4th and 1, he's out of shotgun. Gardner's out of shotgun and throws it. And Shane Steichen's a wizard for it. And now he's up for Coach of the Year, and he's getting like this late run, this late push. Whereas if the receiver drops it,
he's an idiot.
He's an idiot.
They're on his job.
And that play was a Kevin special. Like, it was absolutely a Stefanski play on 4th and 1. Fake the handoff, throw it to the wide open guy. He was wide open. Go find
the
it.
thing
Wide
with
open.
the trick plays, and Bull touched on this, they're high risk and they're high reward.
Yeah.
Whenever you ask someone to do something that they don't ordinarily do,
Yes.
when you ask a tight end to crawl up under center and take a snap, that's out of his norm. When you ask a running back to catch a pitch and make a pitch on the fly, that's out of their norm.
Well, to catch a pitch, you're a running back. You ought to catch a pitch.
I get that, but it's different from you're taking it from a different.
Yeah.
You're not taking it from a quarterback.
And that's
so
why
there's
I hated-
elements in there that can blow that play up, and that's what happened.
And that's why I hated the Amari reverse throw from, was it last year or the Monday night game last year?
Last year, yeah.
Yes.
That I hated
Yeah,
that because that's exactly, you're asking someone to do something they're not comfortable doing. You don't ask Amari Cooper to throw the ball down the field. That's why I didn't like that one as much. I'm sure. Oh, I don't see practice. I guarantee you they rep that and rep that and rep that last week, but they didn't have a defensive tackle blow the play up during practice, and that's what sent the whole thing. So I don't have a problem with necessarily the pitch to Pierre because I'm sure they repped it, and he's a running back. You ought to be able to catch a toss. Denver made a great play, and I didn't love the play call at the time either for the moment, but I'm sure it was, hey, listen, we got this quarterback in who turns the ball over every time he touches the ball. We got to run the ball. They know we're going to run the ball. Let's try and disguise it a little bit. And it blew up in a catastrophe.
That was the turning point. The game was a winnable game up to that point.
It seemed to take all the momentum.
That was it.
They were starting to roll. Like
they were
really
and you're
starting
right.
to
I
roll.
agree with you. The
but
DTR
I think it was,
drive,
I think the DTR injury.
And that's,
yes, I mean that after. But you felt like at that point it was a 5-point game. You thought, okay, now you go back to what has worked, the run game. Have us 8-minute. 80-yard drive down the field, score a touchdown, take the lead, and now put the onus on the Denver offense.
If Dorian doesn't get hurt, do they run that play at that moment?
Yeah,
Probably not.
I doubt
Probably not.
No chance.
I think that's
so.
we got this quarterback in who's a turnover machine. We have to run it. They know we have to run it. Let's at least try and dress it up a little bit.
Right.
And it blew up.
I personally think we've talked a lot, and I agree with you. They should have run the ball more. However, I think it's being blown out of proportion. They were in the drives where they threw on first down, they were way more efficient.
Yeah.
In their scoring drives, they threw on first down quite a bit.
That's worth pointing
And I
out.
thought DTR was throwing the ball. Listen, he's far from perfect. He made some bad throws. But overall, I saw an improvement again. The drops, I don't want to hear about him throwing too hard. The drops are on the receivers. You got to hold the freaking ball. Amari Cooper's got to catch that 2-point conversion in the end zone. That's got to be caught. That's an easy play.
They had drops all over the field.
Garrett's grumbling.
I hate
it. Get it off.
Wait, G, before you go, because I know we're going to go, I did some research this morning, and I found something out that was pretty interesting. So before DTR's injury, I don't count the P.J. Walker stuff.
Right.
Because the whole game plan changed once DTR went out. But before DTR went out, and I saw this, the Faithful Dog podcast tweeted it out. I went to confirm myself. I went through the play log to do my own research to make sure this was accurate. Before DTR got hurt, up until that point, they'd ran 29 pass plays and 16 rush plays. However, 6 of those pass attempts came in that final 2-minute drive of the first half, which are obvious passing situations, and 6 came on 3rd and longs, 3rd and 7 or longer, where you're going to throw the ball. You take out those. In non-obvious pass situations, they were almost dead even. 17 passes, 16 runs.
But again, you're taking out that every team has obvious passing situations in every game.
Well, yeah, that's why
So
more teams pass.
Whenever you start saying, "Well, take that out, take this out, take that out,"
but I'm saying in non-obvious pass situations,
I
you
know
had a
that's
choice.
what you're saying.
It's a
but
damn
again,
near 50-50 split.
When you just look at the fight, now obviously once DTR was out of the game, now you're asking a guy who can't throw the football to throw the football all over the place.
Once he
and he has to throw it at that point.
Right, but after the turnover, now you're down. What they were down?
You're down 2
12.
scores. You
That's what I'm saying. At that point,
what
the
are you
game's
gonna do?
over. The game was over because you're not going to pass the ball with P.J. Walker out of a 12-point hole. That's just not happening.
But this is worth pointing out, and then Garrett, get it off. Bull, you mentioned it. The Browns' success rate Sunday on series that started with a pass, 79%. On series that started with a run, 40%. And a success rate in this instance is a drive that then converts into a first down, a new set of downs, or a score or something like that. So the metrics, and I know people want to roll their eyes at the metrics a lot of times, the metrics say they had more success throwing it on first down than they did on running.
I know, but again, the metrics also say that Jerome Ford was averaging 7 yards a carry.
And yes.
And so
they should have run it more.
And
they should have run it more. I don't disagree.
Yeah, no one's disagreeing with that.
I honestly felt like before the game started, I said, this is a simple game plan. You're going to run the hell out of the ball. That's just what you're going to do because Denver hasn't proven they can stop it. So in the vein of doing what Bill Belichick does before every game, what does the opponent do that you can take advantage of? I just thought it lined up perfectly for the Browns. And the one thing that was interesting, too, most of the games this year, they've had the time of possession. They've run more plays. Obviously, that wasn't the case yesterday.
Yeah.
When you look at Denver's stats, if you would have said this is what Denver's going to do offensively, going into that game, they both had 135 passing yards, DTR and Russell Wilson. And they didn't. I mean, they ran the ball alarmingly well against this Browns defense. We can get into that later. But they didn't put up this, huge number of offensive yards. This was a winnable game if they take care of the ball and do what they do best.
Jay, part of the reason I think they were able to run the ball so well once they did get to it, because the first 2 drives, they weren't running the ball well. When they did run, it wasn't.
I think they only had two runs, didn't they?
One
or
run.
the first 3 drives.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't run it. They came out throwing the ball.
Well, but they had like 2. I mean, they didn't have a lot of plays, period.
No, I know, but they did.
Throwing the ball may have opened up the running game because the Broncos obviously had 8 guys in the box expecting them to run.
Yeah, but you can also say that running opens up the pass. I mean, it works both ways.
Because they ran better after they threw the ball. So,
situation, by the way.
It's just, I mean,
It was a valiant effort, guys. I love the effort. Y'all had your stats ready. You had the phones ready. Valiant effort. Mikey McNuggets had his, if you take this out, this was a beautiful situation. I love the coordinated effort. But this whole entire game plan was probably one of the worst game plans I've seen from Kevin Stefanski. And the reason why is because his main issue is this. He outthinks himself. Team has worked with the worst run defense in the game. How's about we just come out and throw it? No. Good teams say worst run defense in the league, we're running it till you stop it. And the statistics and the data show that when they ran it, they were getting gaping holes. It wasn't as if they were stout up there. It was like, here, Jerome Ford, 6. Here, you go give him the ball 7. But the reason it hits you different is because the Browns had an opportunity to win this football game. But instead of going to what they know they can do, they ran the ball 4,000 times against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Much better defense. Baltimore Ravens, guess what? They had to establish something. They had to establish something against the San Francisco 49ers. The reality of the situation is they came in and they got tricky. I like some of your trick plays, Kev, but let's just be honest, man. You're going to get eviscerated if your tight end, your backup tight end, drops the snap. It's what's going to happen. You're going to take that L every time because people are going to say, dude, who the hell's around the league puts a second team tight end in the game? I swear up and down, this man, Harrison Bryant, is probably in his family. Did he marry somebody in Stefanski's family? Is he a brother-in-law? I need to know. Is he in the will somewhere? Because you're going to get killed if you do that. And the reverse. Oh, Lord. I understand they ran it in practice, but any sort of defensive lineman, when you see something happening like that,
even before the snap.
Before the snap.
They're pointing out something's tricky.
Let me tell you what they tell defensive linemen to do. If you are in a position where you see guys moving around and in a trick position, you hit your best move off the line. Don't be involved with no linemen. You ain't got to put hands on nobody. Get your swim move on. Dip, dive, move out of the way, get in the backfield. And they put Elijah Moore in the backfield like no one was going to spot that. And a backup tailback. My thing is this. Look, that was painfully obvious. And sometimes Kev gets the JV playbook. But at that point, at that time in the game, when you're down 17-12, that is malpractice. You cannot run that play there with P.J. Walker, a third-team running back, and Elijah Moore, who has never run a reverse good this year. We haven't run a reverse for any positive yards in ever. Why are we continuing to go to the reverse like that's money?
I think that plays out of the playbook for a while.
I thought it was dead. I thought
it was too. I thought we'd seen the last of it a couple weeks ago, but I can't imagine he's going to go back to that well.
No, I hope not. I mean, I'm not saying fire the guy. I'm not saying put him on a stake or anything. But what I am saying to you is there is a fact of the matter that Kevin Stefanski in pivotal times has these things happen. We've all documented them. Like bringing Jacoby Brissett in to throw a fade around on 4th and 1.
Well, I don't know. The Browns did good things in pivotal times against the Niners, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens this year.
Game to game, Blue.
Okay, but
you had hold on. You had a good show. You had a good show yesterday.
Yeah.
You got to have a good show today too.
Well, but you made it seem like every time in a big spot he blows it.
There's lots of times when he blows it with those.
Well,
trick
every
plays.
coach blows it in a big spot sometimes and gets it right in a big spot sometimes.
That's what I'm saying.
Outside of maybe one or two coaches, maybe not any.
When you have that's not a play. And here's another thing that I think people are missing. We don't have the team we started the season with, guys. Even though it may be a good idea, you can't put your young, inexperienced players in those positions and hope that they're going to make those plays.
But, G, let me be devil's advocate for 1 second. Because when you look at the injuries that this team has across the board, sometimes it almost had the feel of a team that knows they're going up against a team. They're a 25-point underdog. Conventional isn't going to get it done.
That's exactly right.
When you're playing. So it's a valiant effort to try the trick plays. I get it. And every play, by the way, is drawn up to work.
Remember?
But I think Kevin had come to the agreement, or at least he had come to the conclusion after DTR was out, now I got another horse off the field. I got to reach into my bag of tricks. And at that point, it's kind of hope and poke. See what happens.
The Browns beat the Patriots a few years ago, and they were awful. They were the god-awful typical Browns, and they beat, was the Patriots or Saints or some Super Bowl contender. And it was just trick play. It was trick play after trick play after trick play, fake punt, statue, like you name it. They just pulled it all out because they knew they didn't have the talent to line up man-to-man and run a normal offense. And I think we're getting to that point with the injuries, with where this team is at.
I think we are at that point.
I mean, my God, if they could go into next week's game without their top, 5, 6 players as it stands right now. And by the way, P.J. Walker got Amari Cooper hurt. That was a horrible throw. He exposed him to an unnecessary hit, exposed his ribs on an 8-yard throw. He threw it 8 feet over his head. Like, you cannot have P.J. Walker be the quarterback of this team anymore. How he's still on this roster blows my mind. How they're in this position where you have to rely on this guy for anything.
But what do you do? I mean, obviously it's Joe Flacco.
It's got to be Flacco.
If DTR can't play. What if DTR is healthy?
I stick with DTR.
You stay with him.
I'm telling you.
He looked great in that touchdown drive.
That throw he made to Amari on 3rd down, it looked like it was a dead play. And that was, you talk about arm strength? That was all arm. It was like off balance, wrong foot he's throwing off, all arm strength, sideline out to Amari.
Right.
That was an incredible throw.
And then in the end zone, he makes a great throw to Njoku, puts it only where he can get it.
And he
Njoku drops it. And then he made a great throw after, a little trickery, by the way, to get Harrison Bryant open in the end zone.
And Harry hit
Amari Cooper right in the hands for the 2-point conversion.
It could have been a little bit better throw, but Amari needs to catch that.
But come on.
He needs to catch that.
He's
Amari Cooper.
You gotta catch that ball.
I agree. He needs to catch it.
He doesn't get a pass on that.
That drive, man, I saw this kid grow up, and I tweeted he just grew up 3 years in the last 15 minutes. That throw, that sideline out to Amari, I felt like here he goes.
Great play.
He's got it now. And then he threw one into tight coverage into, I think, Njoku. It was an incredible throw. It looked like a veteran's throw. And you could just see him feeling himself. You could see the confidence growing. And then he takes the hit and he's knocked out of the game. If he can go, I stick with DTR. I said that last week. I'm rolling with this kid.
I agree. The only way Joe Flacco's on the field is, and by the way, with the pieces missing up front, you could be looking at a double-digit sack game if you put Joe Flacco in with that offensive line.
Oh, my God, yeah.
He is a sitting duck back there. So, I mean, the hope is DTR
did not get sacked the whole game.
No, because
there was 4 sacks once he was out.
He made a couple slide moves in the pocket. He's learning it. Exactly your point. As I'm watching it, I'm thinking the same thing. He is maturing right now on the road in a tough environment. By the way, the Broncos took this game to the Browns physically.
Yeah.
They out-physicaled the Browns. And I know how important is Denzel Ward to this defense, guys?
Well, Greg Newsome.
We'll get
Greg
to that.
Newsome, my God.
Is that next, Mike?
But one more thing real quick on DTR. I thought he would be pressured into turnovers. I think I said on Friday, my headline was he's going to throw 2 picks.
Yeah.
I thought Denver would win off turnovers, but I thought it would be DTR turnovers. I thought for what the position he's been put in this year, I was really impressed with the way DTR played.
I agree.
It's really unfortunate. Yeah. And now you go into L.A., I mean, Miles, highly questionable. We're probably not going to get any updates. They're in California now. We're not going to get any updates during the show. No. But Miles is highly questionable. DTR, highly questionable. Obviously, Nick's out.
Cooper.
Amari Cooper, highly questionable.
Yeah.
Denzel. I mean, right there's your top 5 players. You could be without all 5 of those guys.
It felt like the house of cards came down.
Point, man,
when
you've
Miles
just run out of
couldn't
bodies.
pick up his arm.
Yeah.
Now, I know the guy's superhuman, and we're not going to speculate on what that could be. But I've never heard a player say, I heard a pop, And then the
out
MRI
to be
comes back
nothing.
clean.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all signs are pointing to serious injury.
With that being said, what do you think the game plan is next week? You're playing the Rams. You're going to have to run the football and be creative with running the football. That's what is going to happen. Because you don't have a mobile quarterback. Joe Flacco is probably going to play. Now, here's the thing. I'm not as down on Joe Flacco as the rest of the camp. I think Joe Flacco will come in. There's certain things you don't have to tell Joe Flacco, and there's certain things he probably won't be confused about. The problem is, can he get the ball there if he knows what's coming, and does he have the mobility to get out of the way of
That's my
blitzes?
concern.
That's just it.
My concern is you're going to have to pass. You can't pan it off every play.
Right.
And on the downs, when they know he's going to throw, look out.
I mean, he was on a golf course 10 days ago. Now he's going up against Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
if
good
this
luck
goes
with
the
that.
way that we think it's going to go.
Mikey, what do you got?
FanDuel is offering red-hot deals despite the weather getting colder. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and they have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Before we move on from DTR, and I know Jason alluded to it, I just want everyone else's thoughts just so we're all on the same page here and we have this on the record. Jason, you said that drive from DTR gave you enough confidence that he made a tangible progression from his first start, or his second start against Pittsburgh, but his third start in a row, second, from Pittsburgh to Denver. Enough tangible evidence to think he's the guy if healthy. Did the other three guys on the panel, do you guys agree with that? That if DTR is healthy, he gives the Browns the best chance to win right now?
Gee, it seems like you're the only one who may think differently.
If he's healthy, I'm playing him. But if it's 50-50, I'll play Flacco. If it's 50-50.
Yeah.
If he's 50 anything, he got to at least be
Well, he's got a clear
80%.
concussion.
He got
Concussion,
to
so it's
At
either he
this
can play or
point,
he
if he
can't.
clears
Yeah.
it, he's playing. If he doesn't, he's not.
All right, guys, I think, listen, I know it's hard to pull many positives out of yesterday's game. It is, and there's a few we'll get to later. But if you look at the way DTR, and I know he was put in a tough situation, but if you look at the way he played that first game against Baltimore, to the way he played against Pittsburgh last week, to the way he played against Denver this week, I think he's made tremendous
Massive
progress.
Big time.
I mean, I'm very impressed. He's far from a finished product. Far. But there's some clay here to play with. And the Browns may have found something in this guy at the very least. I think he's going to be a good quality backup in the league, at the very
100%.
least. And I think there's potential for a little more. We'll see. But I'm 100% playing him if he clears concussion protocol. There's no doubt in my mind.
The season probably is right now. It's pivoting on the health of Myles Garrett, in my view.
Yes.
Like, if Myles Garrett is out for the season, this defense is going to take a huge step back.
Right. They
And
could still
at that
make the
point,
playoffs, but they'll have no chance
They
of doing
could,
anything.
but like the whole idea to make the
Yeah.
playoffs is you want to make a run.
Right.
I thought 10 would do it. As
Oh,
I look at
100%
the
10 will do
standings
it.
now, there's so many teams at 6.
I still think 10 gets him in.
10 gets him in 100%.
But it might have to be the right 10.
Well, the thing is, it's gonna if it is 10, there could be multiple 10s. There likely will be, and in that situation, you got to make sure you win the right games. That's
Yeah,
why
but-
I think Houston is the double circle game for me.
Yeah, but
Houston
there's
is going to be
only-
in that mix for 10 wins.
Who is the 7 seed right now?
If the season were
Buffalo?
to end today,
No, they lost. They would have
lost.
been had they won.
Who's the 7
according to
seed? Mike?
ESPN, if the season were to end today, Indianapolis would be the 7th seed.
And they got 5 wins. Or they got
No,
6.
they have 6
They're
now.
6-5.
Well,
They-
that's it. Nobody else has 6 wins beyond them.
Yeah, Houston and Denver and Buffalo all have 6 wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell am I talking about?
It's jumbled. It's really jumbled. And Denver now would have the tiebreak over the Browns. The
Right.
Browns have the tiebreak over the Colts. That Houston game, I'm telling you, that Houston game is going to be massive.
But the Buffalo's got a really tough schedule.
Buffalo,
I think
I
Buffalo's
think
out.
the loss yesterday to Philly, I think that
I
puts
texted you guys after the
Yeah.
Monday night loss to Denver. I thought they were in a world of poop then because of what their schedule
When you look at their
lies ahead.
schedule is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I think they're done.
It's a shame because I'm telling you, I think they played what I think is the best team in the NFL to the wire. And if they don't have a mix-up in overtime on an in route or an out route, They win that game in Philly, and now we're thinking a completely different story about the Buffalo Bills.
Their defense still collapsed on that final possession.
It did, but it never would have. If Davis cuts the way Allen thought he was going to cut, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, well.
He was open, but he just cut the wrong way, and I don't know who it's on. I'm sure they figured it out in postgame.
And this is why I love the NFL, because in September, who could have imagined Cincinnati and Buffalo could both be out?
And the Chargers.
Well, I'm not surprised the Chargers
I know that, but still, how bad they've been.
But Cincinnati and Buffalo are staples of the playoffs.
Yeah.
For them to be on the outside.
That is why it is imperative. I never thought people say no must wins. Oh no, you got to win this Rams game. Like, you got an opportunity. You just said Joe Burrow's out of it, Herbert's out of it, Josh Allen's out of it. Those three teams were people had those penciled in. You got to go out there. That's why this game against Denver, it's not as if the season is over when you lose that game. And they did a good job of stacking enough wins to be 7-3. That if you drop that game, the world isn't over.
Yes.
I'll give them credit for that.
Listen,
but
they still got the Bears who are terrible. They still got the Jets who are terrible, and they still have the Bengals who are not very good without Burrow, obviously.
In week 18.
And week 18, who knows what they're going to look like then. And the Bengals defense looks like crap right now.
At this point, all of the teams that are on the Browns schedule are saying,
Yep.
wow.
That's what they're saying.
They're down to quarterback number 4. Myles Garrett could be iffy the rest of the way.
That's what they're
Denzel
thinking.
Ward, who knows? All these guys that are sitting there.
On the other hand, they may only be down to quarterback 4 for 1 week. I mean, I'm not expecting DTR to miss the rest of the season. The biggest deal here is Amari Cooper and certainly Myles Garrett. If Myles Garrett has to miss the rest of the season, that's a disaster. They'll still probably win 3 games, I think, but they can't win in the playoffs without Myles Garrett.
No.
And they could crater. The defense could completely crater without him. That's possible.
We'll talk Myles Garrett in one
see.
sec. Watch.
Sorry,
one more
Mike.
DTR. No, it's fine. I got one more DTR question, then we
Yeah.
can move on to the injuries, and we got some breakdown and what Myles said and how we should interpret that. But with DTR, I got 2 more things I want to ask about DTR, then we can move on. But through 3 games, and I'll include Baltimore in this evaluation because we did see him play a full game. What does DTR do best on the football field?
I think use his athleticism to get out of trouble. I think he's done that a number of times, and I think every game he's gotten better. And he's got a huge arm. He's got a big-time arm now. He's got to certainly work on the touch. I'm not giving a pass to the drop passes at all. He's got to work on the touch a little bit on certain throws.
I'm shocked Bryant held on to that one in the end zone, because that was
I was too.
that was a friggin' four-seam
But that traveled
fastball.
5 yards?
Yeah,
This guy-
and it was a four-seam fastball.
But again, if we put it in the perspective of he's a
look at
fifth-round pick who's been thrown in there, never expected to play, I think he's I think he's shown a ton of promise.
Arm strength, athleticism, I agree with you, and getting the ball out quickly. You mentioned he didn't take a sack. Like I don't know if it came out as fast as it did last week. I mean, last week it was like out.
Right.
Yeah.
But he does a nice job of knowing where it's going with it and getting the ball out fast.
He had a couple drops yesterday where you could see him going through his progression.
Yeah.
And I thought you didn't see a lot of that. You didn't see any of that in the first game. You saw a little bit more of that in game number 2. But yesterday I thought he was looking through his – so that means the game is slowing down for him. And you know that there's always a learning curve for the quarterback where they'll all tell you it was going so fast early on.
Yeah.
And as it slows down and he sees more, I think this guy is very serviceable. But again, you got to stay healthy everywhere else. But and every team gets injuries. I understand that.
Not like this.
But I can't remember a Browns team, that 12 games into 11 games into the season, it's all of the main players. It's it's your quarterback, it's your running back. Now it's your best
shutdown
defensive
player
player
and your
best shutdown
edge
corner.
rusher.
It's
and
like
your best wide receiver.
one of your best linemen.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're everywhere. And at some point there is you throw your hands up in the air mentality, and it feels like they're kind of there right now.
Yes.
Now look, some of these injuries might go the right way. DTR could get cleared. Miles could say, well, it's a slight tear, or it's dislocation. They can knock it back in and he can play. Who knows? But they're going to need him for sure.
G,
Miles,
what do you think of DTR? Before we get to Miles, G, what do you think?
DTR.
I think athleticism. He's athletic, got his big arm. I think he's resilient. Like some of the times when guys drop the ball, he's like, I want to be demonstrative about how
Well, he was
upset
demonstrative a couple times.
I am about,
and I'm sure he heard about it.
He could have freaked out a lot of times when they was dropping those balls, but
well, the Amari Cooper drop was a freak out.
Yeah,
one of the Njokus that would have kept the drive going was a freak out.
But
the coaches don't like to see that. Players don't like to see that.
But it could have went to the sideline. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to catch it on the sideline. In a moment when you throw it, somebody drop it. Okay, throw your hands on your helmet. Okay, let's
but
get
that's
back
like a
to
pitcher who
it.
the shortstop makes an error and the pitcher throws his. You know, you just can't do it.
I will say, I think very important for him. I don't know how much he'll be able to do this. I think it's very important for him this offseason to put on some weight and bulk up a little bit.
Yeah,
because he's not going to be able to stay healthy. He's too slight. I don't know how easy that will be for him.
He's not 17, 18 anymore. You know, we've said the same thing about Tristan McKenzie for years. Like, this is who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, Dorian's what, 23?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to
5 years in college.
Yeah, you're not going to suddenly put on 20 pounds of muscle.
Well,
I think
no,
he
but
is
he
what
could
he
add
is.
a little to his
little
frame. He
bit.
could
No.
bulk
I'm sure,
up,
but
add some muscle.
I think people have probably been
You know
telling
who
they
did
probably
a good
told him
job
that
with
all
that?
through UCLA.
Lamar Jackson. Now, it was in his college career when I first saw Lamar and everybody was talking about this recruit from Miami that was going to change the world at Louisville. When I first saw him, because I had read a lot about him, but I hadn't seen him, I'm like, that's the guy? Now, he was much younger. But if you look at how his body has transformed from his freshman, sophomore year at Louisville to today, he's bulked up quite a bit.
I think from 18, 19, 20.
That's usually
You
the
got a
window.
chance.
That's the window.
It's harder.
But,
DTR is 24 years old, by the way.
He could do a little bit. He could do a little bit.
I don't know that we're going to have this massive evolution.
Right.
But there have been guys.
Get a little stronger.
Look at Giannis when he first came in the league and look at him now.
Yeah.
You know, look at Jim Thome when he came up with the
Tomey's a great
Indians
example.
And what he filled out to be. So it can happen, but I just think by and large,
Yeah.
he probably is what he is in stature at this
Yeah,
point.
and that's going to be a problem because
It could be,
and with that
yeah.
slight of a frame, he's going to take hits. He's a running quarterback. It's really tough to have longevity in the NFL when that's the equation.
What's your last DTR question, Mike?
Well, you guys touched on it. Can I just give you my one thing I noticed from DTR that I thought was really impressive? It's not even the patience, but last week we did the stats. He was getting the ball out unbelievably quick. Stefanski designed a one-read system for the most part. It was plant your foot on a three-step drop, you fire. Stefanski let him go through his progressions this week. And we have seen Stefanski with all the different quarterback change in the last 4 years. He doesn't always give his quarterbacks that leash. And we saw even last week against Pittsburgh, DTR didn't have that leash. We can say whatever we want to Stefanski. Yesterday was not his best performance. Crucify him, whatever you want to do. The fact that he trusted DTR to understand some of these offensive philosophies and how to actually progress from first read to second read means DTR is picking this stuff up a lot quicker than I think I would have expected for a guy making his first career road start in a tough environment to play against a defense that, since the Miami game, has been way better.
At some point, the training wheels have to come off. And I agree with you. I do think that he gave him a lot more rope yesterday. A lot more.
I tweeted this out. I said, I got a theory. My theory was Kevin Stefanski came into the game thinking, you know what? I could run the ball and play it safe. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm using this as an audition. I want to see what DTR got. I want to see whether or not, if I give him a whole playbook, he can read his progressions. If we got into a playoff game, could I call a game that I want to and let the chips fall there where they may to see if he can pick it up? So, in my opinion, when I looked at it and was like, okay, we threw the ball that many times in the first half, we threw the ball. That was by design. He wanted to see, can you do this without your training wheels? And at the same time, he thinking to himself, we 7-3. We could probably be 7-4 if we take this L. Not saying he did this on purpose and was trying to lose the game, but he's thinking in his mind, do I need to go to Joe Flacco sooner or later? Is it because at the end of the day, it's a long shot for the Browns to win the Super Bowl. It's a long shot, especially given the fact that they have the injuries.
But it's even longer now.
He wants to figure out which one of these guys can give me the best chance to catch fire, catch lightning, and win a football game. So he gave DTR the playbook and see how he did. He did a decent job of it. If he would have came out there and stunk and looked shell-shocked, I guarantee he would have went to Joe Flacco very quickly.
I hear you, and I see what you're saying, but I think because it's an AFC opponent, there's so much at stake.
Yeah, you got to win the game.
They threw the ball that much because they thought it gave them the best chance to win. Now, whether or not you disagree with that, I don't blame you, but I'm telling you, that's why they threw the ball that much. If they're going to do that and sort of like, let's see what we got here so we know what to do, I think you do that next week against an NFC opponent where the loss doesn't hurt as much because this one stings a little bit in the tiebreaker. We've already talked about it. So you put out the game plan to win the game because of what matters in the standings. And if you want to try and experiment or really sort of unleash to see what you have, you do that against an NFC opponent where it doesn't sting as much.
I agree with you, but I do think, to G's point, it is a benefit of that game plan, is because if you're going to win in the playoffs, you're going to need your quarterback to be able to do a little more.
Yeah.
You know.
And he needs to figure out what Mikey McNuggets said best just a second ago. What does DTR do best? What is he good at?
Yeah.
Are there some throws that he likes that I think, wow, we could really build something around this?
There are some positives in his game. There's no doubt about it.
I'm telling you, go back and watch that throw to Amari. I was so impressed. I don't know that every starting quarterback in the NFL. I know not every starting quarterback in the NFL can make that throw. From where he threw that thing, off his back foot,
It's
off
a
balance.
fadeaway too.
I mean, how far did that go through the air? Watch
Probably
this
30
thing.
yards. It's way
So
outside
he
the numbers.
throws it from
Off his
the
back
11-yard
foot.
line to the 33. It's 22
22 yards.
Plus the angle. You got to factor in the angle. I mean, that's outside the numbers.
All
That's a tough
arm
throw to
strength.
make.
That
and
is
by
a-
the way, credit Amari for running a great route there.
That's
on Pat Surtain too.
That is
I know it is.
That is a big boy. That is a man's throw. I was so impressed with that one throw because I thought the drive was over. He's throwing it incomplete and they're punting. And
Well,
that throw seemed to just pivot.
What it said to me, what we already knew, his arms was very, very strong. There's a difference between having a strong arm and being able to make a throw in that spot.
Yeah.
One of the most impressive things to me about Derek Jeter was how he sort of, if you think about what his logo is, it's that throw. It's the jump throw where you're in the air. It's tough to get something on a ball when you're not planted on the ground. And Jeter made that throw his thing. That throw, you're right about not many quarterbacks can make it. There are way more quarterbacks that can't even think about making that throw than those that can.
Yeah.
And so it's there. The physical tools are there. You just have to get him in a spot where you're not asking him to do too much.
And what did Joe Thomas say on the show? When he does it once, you know he's capable of doing it. You know that it's in there, so now it's a matter of maximizing that and getting to it again and again. Is he always going to complete that throw? No, he's not. But you know it's in his bag. You know that it's there when he needs it.
All right, Mikey, do the read, and then we're going to move to. We've talked a little bit about injuries, but
We're going to dive into the severity
We're going to go in
of
depth
it.
on them. Yeah.
We also have the sound from Myles Garrett, so we could hear him exactly describe
Great.
what happened. But tomorrow, the barbershop G. Bush is back. If you don't get enough G. Bush on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show from 11 to 1 Monday through Friday, you can see G. Bush. G, you're doing it tomorrow, I hear, this week, according to the schedule. Is that correct?
That's news to me. Yeah, tomorrow. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, that's what the schedule says, so that's what I'm going off. It may be today, it
But-
may be tomorrow. That's breaking news here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. But G. Bush, at least twice a week, is hopping on the barbershop. Make sure you guys check him out at the barbershop on the UCSS YouTube channel. Do you guys want to listen to Myles Garrett first? He said he
let's
felt
hear
a
it.
pop in his shoulder.
Yeah.
Anthony, if you could pull up the Myles Garrett sound here. And this is him after the game describing what he heard, what he felt, and how he's feeling in the moment. Anthony, you can take type phone whenever you're ready.
So it is a left shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Have you had any exams on it yet?
No. See tomorrow.
MRI tomorrow at UCLA probably?
And where we decide to do it.
You came back in before quarter for a little bit. Is it just killing you?
I'm not going to come out unless it's falling. It's already falling on. I want to win just as much as the rest of these guys want to win. I see the determination in their face every time we go out there, and I'm not here to let them down. I'm giving every ounce of effort I got. I don't care how I'm feeling.
Also, the barbershop is today. Steve Becker put it wrong on the schedule. He just texted me, so the barbershop is today. Now back to Myles Garrett, who said he felt a pop in his shoulder. He said he's not going to come out unless his shoulder's falling off. That is the same shoulder I believe he hurt in the car crash last season.
It is the same one.
Which makes at least an extra little cause of concern. We'll hear from Kevin Stefanski today at 4 o'clock. Their press conference is usually at 1 o'clock, but because they're in L.A., in our time, it's 4 o'clock.
What sucks, Mike, is that he seems to have an injury every year. That kind of it doesn't like he's not out for the year, but every year he gets unlucky and has a weird injury and then ends up being not as effective after that. I'm so worried. He's been so great this year. By the way, kudos to Garrett Bowles, who I wanted the Browns to trade for, the Broncos left tackle, who I thought played Myles Garrett until his injury better than any left tackle had played against him all season. But the Browns for the Browns defense to maintain its greatness, which it has played at for the most part this season, they have to have not only Myles Garrett, they have to have a healthy Myles Garrett. Because if he's at 50% and playing like just the regular Joe, their defense is still good, but it's not going to be special anymore. And the Browns can't win anything that matters without their defense being special. So this, with all the injuries, DTR and Amari Cooper, this is the injury that is the most meaningful right now.
Dude is a warrior. Like last year.
Unbelievable.
I can't tell you, like there was some tweets coming out of the locker room yesterday that he needed help putting his shirt on over his shoulder. I saw that multiple times last year after the car accident where he couldn't put his shirt on after the game and he needed help, and yet he's still out there on the field. And last year, I know there was a sense of responsibility, and he knew he let the team down with the car accident and the way that he was hurt in the first place. So he was determined to fight through it. He missed one game, I think, with it and then came right back. So if there's any chance at all for him to be on the field, he's going to be on the field. Like, this guy's toughness is off the charts, but you just wonder how effective can he be.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Because he only missed one game last year,
but he wasn't the same
not
guy.
himself.
He wasn't the same guy.
And you also, obviously, the medical staff will answer this question, but you also have to ask yourself, what is the risk of further injury if he goes out there and plays? Look, Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in the NFL right now. That's very clear. Is he better than most with an injured wing? Probably. But is he going to be effective enough to carry the team to where they want to go if he's not 100%, particularly if you're risking injury? They've got some really difficult questions to answer in the coming days.
I mean, Garrett, how effective is his swim move or a spin move if he can't move his arm, if he can't lift his shoulder?
It's rough because what he's doing is everything about defensive end is your punch. Everything is about your get off. Everything is about your hand work, your push pull, just being able to dip and rip and get around and run the hoops. Look, that position right there. Look at that. Like that position right there. Myles Garrett is in that position 40 plays a game.
Yeah.
Right. So that you're asking a man to not only hold his 275 pounds upward himself. You're asking him to leverage the force of another 300-plus pound man that's on his shoulder as well. Plus, you got to think about it like this. You got to watch for crackback blocks coming down the line of scrimmage. You got to watch for tight ends double teaming. The running backs are going to chip. So he's going to be getting that shoulder touched or hit pretty much every single play. That's the unfortunate part about playing in the trenches. There's no days off in the trenches. Even if it's a run or a pass, you got to touch another grown man.
It's warfare.
It is what it is. So,
it's tough.
This is one of the biggest blows for the Browns, and you'll start to see it now. Like a lot of people that give Myles Garrett this unfair criticism, well, he should be doing more. Well, you're going to see now. Oh, you're going to see if Myles Garrett is not out there, the difference between what your defense looks like here and there. It's just like, if you got a routine and you're taking supplements, let you stop taking them supplements for about a week.
See how strong
you is. You get back in that gym, you're like, dang.
Can I ask a potentially dumb question? So Myles Garrett hurt his left shoulder, right? And he usually lines up over the left tackle, so when he swims, the injured shoulder is the inside shoulder. If he was to play more over the right tackle, his dip shoulder would be his right shoulder. Does that make any difference, or is it still a risk for injury?
Oh, no, he's still getting punched.
And you still need both arms.
Yeah.
Well, I was just asking.
It might make a percentage difference, but it's still.
When they punch, they punching you with two hands, one here and one here.
And the offensive linemen are going to know exactly where you're injured.
Yeah.
Half the fight is already won.
Yeah.
They're going to know how to handle them.
I was just asking. I didn't know.
It's a fair question, but
we've already talked about the DTR injury, so no point on that now. The Denzel Ward injury, which happened obviously the game before. I mean, that was a huge deal. Greg Newsome just got cooked.
Exposed.
I mean, Denzel Ward, you talked about it, G. Well, we'll see what this defense looks like. You're going to learn without Myles Garrett. We already learned without Denzel Ward how important he is.
Levels. The Denzel Ward, man, Greg Newsome might be, I know you want that big deal for the outside. Looks like that. You look like a slot corner right now, dog.
He's fine as a piece. He's not the piece.
I mean, when Cortland, I thought they was going to put Emerson on him. You see what Emerson did to Judy. I mean, he basically got him out the game.
What do you have, a handful of catches? One catch that comes to mind.
Yeah, and that's, we've seen with Jim's defense, with Jim Schwartz's defense, the right corner gets this side of the field, the left corner gets this side of the field, and they don't match up and they don't change. And in this instance, I think I'd like to see Emerson shadow Cortland Sutton a little bit more.
I agree.
because Cortland
That was a
just
bad
killing
job by
him.
Schwartz. He deserves criticism.
And then let Newsome carry Judy.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like, man, it right from the jump. They were looking for zero, and they were going right at his ass the whole game.
Yep.
And
he did not pass the test.
And when you talk about the running, not only that in the pass game, but in the run game, there's been 2 or 3 times these last few weeks where
missed tackles.
Greg Newsome is whiffed on the Warren play. He whiffed in the hole. On this play was a sideline catch. Something made the ball, he caught the rock, and he just whiffed. He just let him get for 10 yards.
He does not give great effort on tackling.
Tackling is huge in this defense, especially for your corners if you got a lot of guys in press man coverage.
By the way, on that first drive by the Broncos, and I don't usually complain about refs, and I thought the Browns got some beneficial calls later, and the Browns have gotten a ton of calls in their favor the last month, but I thought that was a terrible PI call on Newsome on that first possession.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
I thought he barely touched him, and that was a huge play because that was 3rd and 10, and they ended up scoring a touchdown after that.
The announce team didn't like it either, if I
No,
remember
they did
that
not.
correctly.
If I
Mark
never have to
Sanchez
listen to Mark
sucks.
Sanchez
Oh
again,
my
It
God.
was terrible.
he's awful.
awful. Wow.
Did you see his hair?
The big bush in the
The-
back.
The play-by-play guy was fine. He was fine.
Yeah,
but
it
the
was-
Yeah,
Sanchez-
he was calling for a jet sweep by Amari Cooper at one point.
God.
I don't know if you caught that, but I'm like,
Speaking
wait
of
a minute.
Amari Cooper and Jason, I know you touched on the bad pass that got him lit up, but if he's not a part of this offense, DTR, Joe Flacco, whoever, you're just running out of valuable options. And thank goodness Cedric Tillman showed a sign of life, and he played his best game.
Great
Best
game.
game.
You
Great
could
game.
be, and we talk about Tillman in a sec, but
Yeah.
if Amari isn't good, and Steve, you could take Tagboard here, we could play it. He got lit up, and there's no word that we'll hopefully hear what his status
There is
is.
no excuse for this pass. I mean, look at that. He exposed him to an unnecessary hit right in the ribs.
And
with
by the
a
way, that was
terrible
not.
throw.
People were complaining that was a cheap shot. He pushed him.
No,
I mean,
it
what
wa-
are you talking about?
Yeah, no, and there was no helmet involved. It was
No, he didn't even hit him. He
good
just pushed him with
football
his
play,
hands.
but I'm with you. It's a hospital ball. You can't ask your wide receiver
You can't
Terrible.
put that
put his
there.
arms over his head, over the middle.
You can't
Yeah.
put, and he did that to Njoku too. He
Yeah.
had one to Njoku that he could have got him
and
killed.
it's not like it
on.
was a deep pass.
No,
I
it's
mean-
10 yards.
Yeah,
Like,
that's just awful.
Yeah,
Philip Walker needs to be back in the XFL
I-
or Arena League or wherever it is those quarterbacks
They're combining,
go.
I think, the XFL and the.
Well, that's a good
They-
spot
they
for
are
him.
combining, yes.
They may need. Listen, I'm gonna be honest. They may need 2 quarterbacks. They may if DTR can't go and he in protocol. I can't put BJ Wall. I can't have him be my backup. I'm sorry. I just can't. He's the fact that when he gets in the game and he's a veteran and he has the ball security of a 2-year-old. Like he's just
Every time he hit him, ball's out.
Every
Ball's out.
single time
Yeah.
he's touched, it's like a 2-year-old with a sippy cup. You dropped your sippy cup.
Pick up your Cheerios.
Why are you leaving your socks
I
around?
think he's leaving a mess
Everywhere.
I have no idea why he's in an NFL roster. And again, we'll go back to. I'm not going to go back to Josh Dobbs at this point. It's stupid. But at the trade deadline, why at the very least around then you didn't? Because if you had signed Flacco 2 weeks earlier, he would have been the backup by this week. Now, again, you still may have lost the game. Who knows? What's funny is that, there was a lot of complaint about not running enough, right? They had all these injuries, although a lot of them did come late. And yet, if DTR didn't get hurt, I still think they had a good chance to win the
agree.
game.
I think
I
they were
agree.
on their way to winning.
Yes.
I totally
I
agree.
think they were on their way to winning the
Yep.
game.
Yeah.
And as it was, the game was over the last 2 minutes, right? Last 2, 3.
Yeah.
The game was over.
4 minutes was over.
But in 11 games,
Yeah.
2
We're out of control.
They were not in it in the
Right.
last 2. Like they had a
Yeah.
chance to be in it and win every game.
Their other 2
at the
losses,
end.
they
Yeah.
easily could have won
Yes.
those games.
Yeah,
So out of
Now
11
they did win a
games-
couple that they could have lost.
Sure,
too.
absolutely.
But that's
Yes.
the NFL.
Yeah.
But in 11 games, 2, they were out of it in the last 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever number you
Yeah.
want to put on it. With the injuries that they've had, that is
remarkable.
incredible.
What was really disappointing amongst, kind of get lost, I think, a little bit, was after they scored that touchdown, they missed the 2-point conversion, of course, that was
Right.
disappointing. It's 14-12.
I didn't like that he went for it there. I didn't like that.
Oh, really? I
No.
loved it.
Don't chase points that early. Just take the
I
extra
don't think
point.
it's about chasing points, but
But anyway, finish
there's
your
an
point.
argument to be made.
I didn't like that.
But the defense on that next drive just got run through.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
now they
You
stopped
thought
them
they
on the
would
goal
be
line.
motivated after that score.
Right, to give up those points. Like, we're used to, okay, here comes the comeback, the defense shuts it down.
Yeah.
And now they did ultimately stop them inside the 5 and held them to a field goal. But I wanted to see the offense get the ball right back
I
after
did
that
too.
touchdown.
Because they
And
had
that didn't
momentum.
happen. Right.
And the defense is weird. When you look at the total numbers, they again held their
No.
opponent under 300 yards. They did, for the most part, they did their job. But the safety, the short field touchdown after the debacle on the reverse, like, they played much better than the final score. They allowed 29 points. I think 20 of those were legit. But it's still...
It wasn't a great performance by the defense
by,
at all.
By no means was it a great performance. But when you look at the yards allowed,
I know.
like, my God, that's a game that you think you're going to win.
You were right there.
I think there's two things that as I have to go back and watch all 22 to really be definitive in what I'm going to say. So I'll just preface it with I think this will happen. Anthony Walker was sorely missed inside. You look at the way they were running the ball and they were running these trap plays. They noticed something with our defensive tackles being in two eyes, which is, inside shoulder to the guard. That's a large gap to be covered by Taki. And I just thought they did a good job of running trap plays, really quick plays in the middle. And our defensive linemen didn't do a good enough job of shortening the gap, which is basically saying don't get washed down to create a hole.
Yeah.
When somebody's pushing you, you got to hold your gap right there so that the ball carrier has to declare either I'm going to go outside or inside. But if you get caved in, that means there's a whole side that can go, lane right in the middle.
And there were lanes too often.
By the way,
first
if you
quarter.
just looked at the stats, which none of us did because we all watched the game, you would say Russell Wilson. I thought Russell Wilson played a hell of a game.
He made plays in spots
every time when he needed to.
Yeah.
And he
The
was
big run.
He was diagnosing something, as you said, about the defense. That was him.
Pizza.
That play, they took a play out of the Indianapolis Colts playbook. Gardner Minshew was killing us on the read option. They did it one better. They said, listen, we're going to identify who it is, and then we're going to put our running back leading out to block. Mark Sanchez gets excited because he's like, oh, that's a touchdown, because he realized that the running back was not even in there to get the ball. That was a design run off a read option look, and Myles Garrett crashed down, which is his responsibility to take away the run. However, they had a lead blocker in front of him. He goes for 13 or 14 yards, and then they flipped the play and ran it back the next time. So I thought that Russell Wilson did a good job of just slowing the pass rush down by doing little things like that to make them aware that, hey, I could pull this thing down and run.
We were wondering if Sean Payton was going to make it through the season. Yeah. I mean, and rightfully so, after how poorly they looked, and really it was the team clearly gave up in Miami. But what they've done after that loss is really nothing short of miraculous.
6-2 and 5 in a row.
5 in a row now, and very much in the playoff mix.
Yep.
JOK, let's talk about him for a second. Game of his career, I think.
Best
he was
game.
Everywhere.
Best
Made
defensive
some
player.
huge plays.
11 tackles, 2 for a loss, a sack. I thought he...
Did he have a strip
punch
fumble
out?
too?
He had the punch out.
Punch out.
He had the punch out.
JOK played awesome.
He was
phenomenal.
everywhere.
Best defensive player in the field. Best defensive player in the field.
Talk about great turnarounds.
Looked unblockable. He was just running around underneath blocks, over top blocks. Even when you blocked him, he still had a great job of tackling the guy in the backfield. Even when a guard was on him, I thought he played with speed. I thought he played great.
Cedric Tillman, and Jerome Ford. Those are the MVPs of the game.
Yeah. And when those are your MVPs, you probably have an out.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you got to score. They had one rush. Denver had one rushing touchdown all year, and then on 2 of their early drives, they had rushing touchdowns against the Browns defense that you wouldn't think would give up a lot of rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, well, Javonte Williams is finally getting healthy, and he looked better. Samaje Perine ran very well.
Perine ran great.
Yeah.
Alex Wright seemed to get a lot of reps, even before Miles.
I don't know
his shoulder. Alex and he had 2 offsides.
Lord.
I know,
which isn't great.
How do you line up in the neutral? I mean,
there's no excuse for that.
That is just that's a mental lapse.
And they haven't had a lot of the I think Kevin said they were just sloppy, and they were. And he said they didn't play a clean game. And they had a lot of mistakes that really they haven't had this year with pre-snap penalties or unforced errors, some of the false starts, the lining up in the neutral zone, just some of the nonsense stuff that just like some of the holding calls, okay, you're gonna get those. But man, it's some of these other unforced penalties that just kill them.
That's the mental. There's a thing to be said about it. And I've played where, and I this isn't as bad as this, but I played where we ran the triple option. And so if you talk about compromised quarterback play, there's no more compromised position than being down 10 points and guys are running fullback dive in the triple option. And there's a level of, I don't know, it's a level of mental fatigue that you get, that you have to answer the bell every time. They know it. Like, hey, like you said, when they went down and they scored, you wanted the offense to get the ball right back.
Right.
There's a thing for a defender like, man, it's just fatigue because you're like, we can't give up this, we can't give up that, the normal stuff we can't. Just being able to having to carry the load for pretty much the whole team, it gets to you after a while. And compound that with injuries, you're going to have some issues.
But, when a team's got a great quarterback, and maybe it's an unfair comparison because it's one player versus an entire defense, but when a team has a great quarterback, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you expect him to play great all the time.
Sure.
He doesn't always play great, but you expect it all the time. Well, the Browns have a great defense, so I expect them to play great all the time.
But they're going to lay eggs.
Yeah.
And they have a couple this year. Doesn't mean they're not a great defense. I think they still are. By most metrics, they're the best defense in the NFL.
But without
year.
Myles Garrett, they won't be. Not great.
Of course not.
They'll still be
Well,
good.
you take any unit's best player off of it, and there's going to be There's going to be a big regression.
That's true.
Yeah,
Two
I mean, if
best.
Ward misses more time,
Watch it. Ask Tyvis. They played more zone coverage than I've seen. And
they had to, right?
Yeah, they got to because I seen Sutton break off a traditional regular in route. And Newsome was
20
out.
yards behind him.
He was out at the Rockies ballpark. I said, dang, Newsome, where you at? He's in the parking lot. And then he got beat so bad, he just had to get the trot behind. I'm like, is that a deep over route? Did he break him off? And it was just a dig. And I knew from that point, I said, we in for one. They're going to have to play some zone back here because this is not a man that you could put man-to-man. You could put somebody on like that.
Well, it's the same thing like Garrett. When you lose your best pass rusher, your entire pass rush is going to suffer. And when you lose your best cover guy, your entire back end is going to be in somewhat of disarray. And there were times yesterday where it looked like it was.
Watch that back end there, Mike.
Yeah, I will watch that back end. G, what's the tilting point for a defense when you know your offense may be unable to score as many points as necessary and you have to bring your A game? Is just being in playoff contention enough to keep the defense motivated to essentially try and bring an A-plus game every week, knowing the offense may not be able to score 14
Oh,
or
no.
more points?
See, human nature is a monster, right? The same way we be at home, right? And they got that little, that after the fumble reverse.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a wrap. I could tell you that was done.
Yeah.
It was like, because
they felt the same emotions
They
we did.
felt the same thing because they're like, we in it. We just need a couple things to fall our way. But when that sudden change, and they practice sudden change, right? They do it in camp and they do it during the season, and we practice, being able to come off the sideline and come in and stop them, hold them to a field goal. But there's a certain thing that ain't going to help for. One of them is, you had sudden change and Myles Garrett looked like he hurt. That's a wrap. And you down the corner. It's
and your quarterback had just gone out.
And you got P.J. Walker in. So they like, I am not about to go out here and get injured. I still got to come back next week against the Rams. Fold it up. It looked like one of them games where it's a back-to-back in NBA. It's back-to-back night NBA. If it's that first night and you getting beat by 15 and it's 10 minutes in the fourth, wrap it up. Wrap them cords up. We got to go across the street to the Staples Center, get your starters out of here. That's exactly what it was that day. Bye.
Yeah, he's right on the human nature thing. Whether you're a player or a fan, when there is a momentum shift like that, it's palpable. And the crowd, I thought their crowd is still one of the best in football. Yeah. I mean, they were loud yesterday.
And Russ didn't give you nothing.
No, Bull said that. I mean, he wasn't great.
No.
Yeah, but he wasn't killing you.
What I mean, he didn't give you anything is he didn't give you anything to eat off of. Russ came in there with the business suit Russ.
Right.
You ain't getting no turnovers.
Oh,
Russ.
yeah, right.
We're not about to throw Hail Marys and get creative out here.
Yeah.
We're going to turn around and be very efficient and get y'all out of here.
And you know what? That's an ugly game plan, but it works.
Yes, it
does. The Browns have done that a number of times for victories this year. That's why I thought coming into this, don't overcomplicate it. Do what you do, and it just happens to match up with what they can't stop. So just feed it. Go with it. Put the onus on them to be good at something they haven't been good at.
Well, hopefully this is It'll serve as a reminder. Like,
Will it?
Well, well, listen. He played a dangerous game last week. He's gonna have to play some more dangerous games. Like, especially if it's Joe Flacco. You can't line up and run read option with him. So you're going to have a very special game plan ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, one thing, I know we moved off quarterback, but I just thought of this. I got to mention this. This is going to be such a difficult week, I think, for them practice-wise. You're out of your element, first of all. You're at UCLA, so you're not at home.
Right.
That was by design.
Yep.
That's fine. But who are you giving the practice reps to if DTR hasn't cleared protocol? Let's say he clears Thursday or Friday.
I think you got to give him the
gotta
Flacco.
be
But you know what I mean? Like, DTR needs these reps too. He's young.
Yeah.
He needs these practice reps. But Joe's been golfing and sitting in the bar.
Sure, Joe needs him.
So I don't.
Right,
this,
but DTR can't practice.
no, but I'm
until he's
saying
cleared,
right? But I'm saying if he clears protocol Thursday
or Friday.
I'll play him.
just for instance,
You play him?
I would, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
If Joe
If he's
takes-
cleared, he practices and gets all the reps.
I'm just saying it's hard for me because you need to get Joe. You're back to needing to get two guys ready almost, and maybe they rule him out early in the week. I don't know how severe the concussion is. I don't know, but I'm just saying if it's like a Thursday Friday clear, and he doesn't really get many practice reps, what do you do? I just think they're in a really tough spot this
It is
week.
tough.
Or
And
if he,
DTR real
or if he
quick-
gives him the reps, or you don't, you give him the reps, he comes back, he gets jarred again, or gets roughed up a little bit. Now what do? You got PJ Walker and Joe Flacco with no reps.
And Harrison Bryant, don't forget him in the quarterback room.
Brother-in-law.
It's just-
I'm
it's
gonna.
a-
I swear to
we
goodness.
kid.
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
we
find
wanna-
out
real
here.
quick,
Listen,
DTR
get-
did.
As
DTR
far as the
tweeted out
Rams,
last
Kyron
night.
Williams is a good player, and he's done a nice job. I don't think we want to overstate how good they are. They played the Cardinals. The Cardinals are the worst defense in the league.
I'm not even worried about them so much.
Yeah.
I just mean practice reps are so important. I think we dismiss it. I think we dismiss that. Just get them ready
True.
for Sunday.
No,
just
I
get them
mean,
ready for Sunday. And with the
we
position
found
that the
out how
Browns are in,
important they were earlier this year.
and especially with the position the Browns are in, with a guy off the street and this fifth-round rookie who still is raw. He's so raw. He's had a couple of weeks as the expected starter, so he's gotten a couple of those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday reps. The practice reps, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, are so important.
Yeah, I don't
and we
e-
just seem to dismiss it sometimes as just get him ready for Sunday.
No, you're right.
And
We've
it's
seen
not
it with
how
Watson
works.
not getting enough practice.
Bull, here's
well,
the.
hell, with DTR's first start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what that looked like.
This is the way I think about teams from now on. I said it's just going to be a tough game against Denver. There are no bad teams in November.
What are the Rams? 5-6? They're
5-6, correct.
Yeah.
I believe there are no bad teams when November and December hit.
They're not. I'm not saying the Rams are bad. I'm just.
No,
we don't
no,
want
I'm
to
saying-
overrate them also because of a win over the Cardinals.
I think they can. The Browns. This is it's the NFL. I think Browns can beat anybody on that list. They can also get beat by everybody on that list.
Anybody have any concerns about the normal distractions that aren't there when you're practicing at home all week? They're in L.A. There's a lot of stuff to see and do in L.A. There's other things to steal your football focus away. Any concern of that?
I'm not.
I don't think they're built like that. I don't think the Browns are built like that. I think they got to. That's one thing I give Stefanski credit for. They don't have a bunch of Manziels or Josh Gordons, and they usually toe the line. You don't have disciplinary stuff like that, and the guys, they got a good leadership pool of guys in there. I don't think you have to worry about
These
that.
are still young, rich, single guys in their early 20s in L.A. for a week. So, yes, I think there is absolutely, especially early in the week, if you follow a normal week, they're off on Tuesdays. What happens Tuesday? What happens tonight, Monday night, going into an off day?
What happens on Tuesday stays on.
So, but I would be
Only
more
in
concerned.
Vegas.
I like to think that because you're in season, there's less risk than if it was July. Like if this was when they were in West Virginia, there's probably more concern of guys getting into trouble. But again, they're young single millionaires in their 20s in LA for a week. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of concern, but hopefully, obviously they took that into account when they chose to do it this way, and I think that the reward of it's almost having that West Virginia Greenbrier effect again of we're here, we're together, we're going to spend the week together. It's almost a carryover of
It's
what they
absolutely the
built.
right
And
call
not
to
having
do
to
it.
do the travel.
You just can't do
Yes.
that travel back and forth.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
The Patriots have done this before, and I've talked to people with the Patriots who don't like doing this, who feel like stick with the routine, stick with the regiment. Yeah, it's a long flight, but stick with what we know. Don't get us out of our normalcy. But the Patriots are famous for doing this, going and staying out west and spending the week there. They've had a lot of West teams come east and stay out here
Sure.
when you do back-to-back games. And, they schedule them this way. They ask the league, if you're going to do this to us, please put them back to back so that we can stay there. And I think that's what happens.
There's a reason that teams from the East, when they go west, lose games. You know, I mean, it's been well documented. It's been, and vice versa. But the body clock and adjusting to that, it's never easy. Now, when a West Coast team does it and they don't come more than a day ahead of the game, their clocks are really screwed up for a 1 o'clock kick.
Yeah, sure.
Because to them, it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
If you worry about extracurriculars, or they got anybody on this team that's worried about going out clubbing, doing different things, then I'm overestimating what the culture is in the locker room.
Right.
That's the old Browns. I'm expecting y'all to be locked in. You got a great opportunity. You 7-4. Everything you want to do is in front of you, and you guys is out moving around like that. Like, that's just not. That's something terrible teams do. You can be on a 1-10 team and do that, but I expect the guys to have some sort of restraint and to like lock in. It's a great opportunity. Hey, I'm thinking about, I'm in LA. Let me get 2 picks in LA. let me get some sacks in LA, especially for these young guys, because there's some opportunities for these young guys to play. Y'all should be in y'all playbook. Be ready to go, because Miles looked like he might. You know what it is? Hey, listen, old boy, what's his name? I lost it, forgot his dog's name.
Ward.
No, the receiver.
Amari Cooper.
Cedric Tillman.
Cedric Tillman. Have a day. You out west, have a day, son. We've been asking about you all year. David Bell, where you at? You good?
Business trip.
Business.
Was that the best game by a Browns third-round wide receiver in 3 years?
Well, that's not saying much, but it was.
Yeah. David Bell never had 60. I know Schwartz never had 60.
Schwartz had one long run on a reverse, right, or on a pitch. He had one long run.
That doesn't count as a good game.
Yeah. That's what we missing on them reverses.
Yeah.
Schwartz.
Bring him back.
I do got one second.
He's available. He's available. He knows.
Hey, but I watched Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. I couldn't find DTR with
DPJ.
or DPJ.
Get the initials right.
I couldn't find him.
didn't
I
play
know.
at all.
Out of sight, out of mind. I forgot his name.
I don't
already.
think Anthony Schwartz is even on a practice squad.
No.
I don't think
No, he
is
did. He
either.
got signed to Miami's practice squad.
Oh, that's right.
did
We talked
a few
about
weeks
that.
ago.
No,
Hey,
you sure
real quick.
about that? I thought he tried out, but they didn't sign
I
him.
thought he ended up signing. I'll double check after
thought
I
he
do
was
it
working
for
at
FanDuel.
Kohl's.
As the weather gets colder, the NFL deals stay hot at FanDuel, and right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is simple to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I will look up the Anthony Schwartz thing in 1 second, Bull, but I mentioned this on the postgame show, and Jason, Bull, Jay, G, you commented yesterday, but it seems that DTR and Amari Cooper are still figuring out that chemistry. There seems to be a step slow or a step off, and Cooper's receptions to targets are not equating. And same with Njoku. But obviously he has phenomenal connection and chemistry with Cedric Tillman because they played in high school together, and that's in lockstep, and we saw that yesterday. Is that just practice reps, Jason, and is that part of the reason you feel those practice reps from DTR are so important, even if it's just Thursday, Friday this week as opposed to a full week? But is that the kind of tangible stuff you think improves with those practice reps?
Absolutely, yeah. The rhythm, the chemistry. If he was in his 3rd or 4th year as the starter, it's not as important. You could roll in, Friday or whatever, even the weekend, and it's not going to be ideal, but you can muddle through. But when you're a 5th-round rookie and you are so raw at this, those reps are so important. Even a guy like Deshaun, I was saying earlier, Deshaun needs those practice reps when he was out there because of all the time that he's missed and how new he is to the system. So everything is still so new that the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday work, the game plan, the installation is so critical when you don't have that familiarity. If these guys have been around, if this was a normal functioning franchise and you got the same quarterback for 4 or 5 years in a row and he's got the same targets, well, you can go out there on Sunday and draw something up in the dirt and it's okay. But the Browns aren't in that position.
Anthony Schwartz did sign, by the way, Bull.
Okay.
He is on the practice
Good for
squad.
him.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's harder than it looks. Like, you see the guys go out and run routes, right? But when you designing plays, you got to decide, okay, on this play, I got certain coverage. So depending on that coverage, I can run 4 different routes. And you got to see the same coverage, and the quarterback got to see the same coverage. And then on top of it, he has to make line calls. So, okay, to give me enough time to even throw that football. So you just out there with two people living on faith.
Yep.
Like, I got to throw this ball and hope in my heart of hearts that you saw the same thing I did. And when I get up from the ground, I look up, they say first down. But you could get up from the ground and look up, and it could be a pick six. You could get up and look to say it's a tip ball. It takes a lot to be on the same play. That stuff is thousands and thousands of reps, not to mention that a lot of these drop balls, and I'm not giving nobody excuses, but the spin is different on every football. Mm-hmm. You talking about from Deshaun Watson, how he throws it, to how DTR throws the ball, to P.J. Walker. All of those things, all those quarterbacks have different cadences. Some are going to hold it a little longer. Some of them might look to extend plays. And you as a receiver have to just be there by osmosis. It's very difficult to play receiver and quarterback in the league.
If this was the Bengals and Burrow's healthy, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday isn't as important to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd because these guys are running so many routes. They know what they've seen it all. They know what they're doing. They know where the guys are going to be. That's not the case with this, and maybe that does unlock Tillman a little bit because he does have that familiarity, at least with DTR. If DTR is cleared and Gibbs, whenever that is, they haven't had a lot of reps together on the field in games with the Browns, and maybe that does help with Tillman a little bit and get him going just because he knows DTR so well where none of these other guys do. I just think because the unfamiliarity Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is so much more important than people realize.
You guys both made excellent points. I mean, we always talk about play calling, we always talk about the talent of the receivers, but we rarely talk about the chemistry between the quarterback and his receivers. And this has been a problem. I mean, look at Deshaun Watson has the whole year was not on the practice field much outside of the game, the first game. And there's been so many different moving parts on this Browns offense, at least until a week or two ago, that wasn't the case on defense. Now it's become on defense as well. But the moving parts on offense, that every part you change, even beyond the quarterback and the wide receiver, every part you change, a new offensive lineman, you talk about, well, that guy's going to block a little differently. He's going to do this a little differently. And the Browns have had so much turnover on the offense that eventually it catches up with you, and it certainly has.
What's the most number of games that a quarterback has started in succession this year?
This year? Gosh.
I mean, it just seems it's
three?
completely checkerboard.
I think it's three. And it was weeks 1, 2, 3.
I'm going through in my head. I can't remember that they had the same starting quarterback for 4 straight weeks.
Well, hey, let's go down the list. We'll do it real quick.
Call
in
that up
lifetime.
and look
Like,
at it.
Deshaun
It's just been checkerboarded.
Deshaun the first 3.
Yeah, and then after that, nobody.
Then DTR was week 4.
Yep.
Then
And
it was
then Walker
BJ.
started. Well, he started 2 of 3, but then you got to remember Watson did start Indy, so that stops the streak. So that's only 2.
That ended
and
that.
now DTR the last 2.
And then Watson 2, DTR 2, and it could be Flacco this week, so we may be stuck at that 3. Which means since week 3, the Browns haven't had the same quarterback start 3 games in a row.
Which is nuts. And we have to look at it from 30,000 feet every once in a while too. I know we can be very critical of the play calling in the micro, and they deserve it. But the fact that this team is 7-4, and they've been without the key personnel that they've been without, particularly at the most important position where they've had no consistency at that spot all year.
Yep.
It's nothing short of a miracle. And if they can somehow keep these players that are on the fringe healthy and get them back on the field against LA, it is a race to 10. You need 3 wins. You've got to pick up 3 wins, and I think Houston almost counts as 2. If they can do that, you're looking at one of the best coaching jobs we've seen in a very long time.
It's very important, and the reason I think it's important to make the playoffs and have all hands on deck and do whatever you need to do to make the playoffs. I don't care if you got to play 3 of the quarterbacks in the same game. Just figure out a way to get a win and do it in a way so
just for the playoff experience.
Just for the playoff experience. Because think about it. Think about it this way. If you don't make the playoffs, everything that you have in the offseason is a question mark. Everything. People still don't know about Deshaun Watson. People don't know if Nick Chubb is coming back. People don't know if Jedrick Wills is the real left tackle. People don't know, where's this playbook we were told? Is the offense, everything you've been taught, and then
What's the wide receiving group look like outside of Cooper,
Yeah.
who
we said they might not be able to pick that contract up.
but they're
because
going to have to.
They
because
got
there's
to now,
yeah.
right?
His dead money's so heavy next year, I think he's back regardless.
So if you go in the offseason with all of them question marks, and guess what? It's Coach Stefanski's last year. That's a question mark. But if you go to the playoffs, now you got a nice feeling.
Well, they won't let him go into that last year. There'll be an extension in the offseason most likely.
So if you can make the playoffs with the patchwork kids that you got right now, everything will have an asterisk to say, how about those Cleveland Browns? And guess what? They got everybody coming back.
You're going to feel
next year.
so good going into next
Absolutely.
Even though most of those questions will still be there.
Right.
But
It's
you
makeup.
feel better. I mean, if they can, with all they've gone through this year, if they could win 10, 11 games, which I still think is very doable, and make the playoffs, even if they get eliminated in the first round, that would be pretty impressive.
It would.
I know it's only Monday and we're still talking about Broncos, but I was thinking about looking ahead to next week, and if they lose at LA, it's going to feel like the building's on fire. We're going to come in Monday and go, oh my God, it's over. Here's the unraveling. This Rams game to me does not feel as important as the rest that follow it.
I agree.
They can lose this one 7-5. We're going to scream and rail. G's going to want somebody fired.
Yeah.
But when you
And
look,
I didn't fire
Jackson-
nobody today.
And to be
not.
fair,
You did not.
no, you did. You did.
we're not going to they'll be if that happens, they're going to be an underdog at home
Probably.
to Jacksonville.
But look at the stack of AFC teams that come after
Yeah.
the Rams, and the Bears are wedged in there too, and that's a win. You got to beat Chicago. You got to beat Chicago. But there is such an AFC run of playoff teams after that: Jacksonville, Houston, the Jets with or without Rodgers. Bengals in 18. So I just want to get that on the record now, because in the moment, next Monday, if they do lose that game, everyone's going to be screaming and saying that the season's over and it's all unraveling.
I don't expect
and
them
here
to
we
beat the
go.
Rams out in LA.
I
don't.
tend to think that they. I tend to think that they will.
I
If
might
had to
change
pick-
my mind if some of these guys are suddenly healthy.
Yeah, if I had to pick
But the
it
way
today,
the injury list looks right now,
Yeah,
I
know.
can't say that. I wonder what's the line on that.
I think it's Rams by 4.5. I think.
Is it?
Ooh, that's substantial.
I'll double check. When I looked this morning, it was wavering nonstop, and I think a lot has to do with the uncertainty of quarterback.
Sure,
They have no
sure.
idea
Exactly.
who's going to be there.
Right. And even if DTR doesn't clear and they play Flacco and Miles can't go and they get run off the field or whatever happens, it doesn't matter. Whatever happens, there's such a stack of AFC teams in important games after it.
You can make up for it. You
Yes,
can.
the losing the NFC
Right.
games is not as big of a deal as
Now,
losing the
if
AFC
they lose to
games.
Jacksonville after that, now all of a
Well,
sudden
now
they're
the building
7-7.
is kind of on fire.
Yeah.
Now it's small.
But they're still not done, by the
They're
way.
not
at
done
7-7.
because you just got to get to 10.
Or if they go out and they beat the Rams, you're 8-4.
Yes.
Like, 8-4
And you're feeling really
8-4
good.
is crazy.
And
Like
you're
you-
feeling
Then
really
you
good.
can start thinking about positioning.
Yes.
So
Because at 8-4, with the teams that they have left on their schedule, now you can.
Now
There's
you-
a clear
now you-
path to 11.
Now you get to 11.
Yeah, and then you can start thinking about, do we get a home game?
Matchups.
Yeah, matchups. Exactly.
And my vitriol, if you notice, I don't have very much vitriol behind the commentary because, look, let's be clear. Like, this is what we're dealing with. I mean, there's massive amounts of people. You cannot, the injuries, you cannot overgloss and ignore that. Yeah, and the quarterback play here on awful, here's playing, he's not. That can't. But here's the great thing about it. At least I can tell you it's enjoyable because I don't know how they're gonna play from week to week.
Right.
Like I might turn the TV on, they might throw it 80 times, or they may run it. But at least they're in the game, and with the ragtag group they got, it's still enjoyable.
By the
to
way,
see.
even if they do win next week, we're not talking about home. There's no chance the Browns are playing a playoff game.
Oh no! That ship is sailed.
There's zero chance the Browns are playing a home playoff game.
No.
Zero chance.
I wouldn't say that yet.
You have to win the division to have a home playoff game.
Wild cards can host a playoff game, can't they?
Not in the first round.
Second round.
You'd have to have upsets in the second round.
Wait. So the 1 and 2 get a bye.
No, one gets a bye.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
one gets a bye this year.
That's
That's
right.
right. It's different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Ravens are winning the
Boy,
North.
the Ravens winning yesterday. Had they lost, it would have made yesterday's loss feel so much less painful.
Don't the Ravens have 9 wins?
Yes.
Ravens are
They
9
do now.
and 3.
I mean,
Yeah,
Going into the bye.
The
When
best
they-
case scenario for the Browns right now is 11 wins. The Ravens are winning more than 11 games. I mean, they're not going to win
What's
two games.
Baltimore's remaining look like? Have you looked at that?
Baltimore's remaining schedule is brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel is
Beautiful.
America's #1 sportsbook, and as the weather gets colder, NFL deals stay red hot. New customers get $150 in bonus bets if you win a $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is simple to use, and they have betting options including everything from spreads to player props to over-unders and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel.com/UCSS. We mentioned a second winning ticket earlier. Daniel Caruso won a big parlay on the Cavs on Friday when they beat the Lakers. He turned $10 into $297 with a 9-part same-game parlay. And, if you have a winning FanDuel ticket like Daniel Caruso, make sure you send it to us and we'll feature it on the show. The Ravens' remaining schedule, they have a bye this week, Jay.
Right.
Then they're home against the Rams, at Jacksonville, at San Francisco. 2 primetime games, by the way. Jacksonville Sunday night.
Those are both
San
gonna be good
Francisco
games.
Monday night. Then home versus Miami. And then home versus Pittsburgh to close it out. So Jacksonville, the Rams, San Francisco, Miami, and Pittsburgh.
not
If
easy.
the
It's
season
not.
ended today,
It's not easy.
that's
But
4 playoff
what's the
teams.
worst case scenario? They go 2 and 3. Worst case.
Worst case
I don't know.
scenario. Worst case scenario is Lamar Jackson get hurt like he do at the end of the
Listen,
season.
the Ravens.
Hey,
The
deal
Ravens
with a
are
little
playing
bit of
very well.
adversity.
Get you that adversity.
by the
They're
way-
winning 11, 12, maybe 13 games.
Look at the Steelers schedule. They're going to the playoffs.
Oh,
They
God,
are.
Yeah.
They're absolutely
I
going
mean,
to the playoffs.
Arizona,
And they stink.
New England.
They're terrible.
At Indy, Cincy at home, at Seattle, at Baltimore.
Their offense was a little better yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
400 yards.
They've-
400 yards.
And Najee played well. Najee actually played well in that game. T.J. Watt, by the way, he's a dirty player. I've been saying it for years. Nobody ever accuses Steelers players of being dirty, even though Joey Porter was dirty, the original one. James Harrison was a dirty player. And T.J. Watt, totally dirty. He should be suspended, potentially. He's got to be fined, and none of those things will happen. He hit Jake Browning from behind after he had already thrown the ball, hit him from behind. On another play, he sacked him, and he punched him when he sacked him. 2 dirty plays. If that was Myles Garrett, he'd be
Sounds
kicked
like
out
a
of the league.
Bengals fan to me. I don't know.
I ain't got no love. Listen, I ain't got no love for no Steeler. Get him up out of here. Hey,
I'm trying to
him.
find the hit, G. Bull.
He hit him from
I saw
behind.
the punch once. I thought he was going for the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did too. I thought he was. I thought he was.
Did
Did you see the hit from behind?
I did. Yeah,
That was
it
a
happens.
dirty shot.
It happens. I mean,
Oh, come on. He had
it
3
happens.
steps.
I see it all the time in the NFL. It happens.
Nah, that was ridiculous.
It happens.
here's what
you
I'm-
just view it differently when it happens to your team.
Here's-
I'm
No,
the
I'd say the
way.
same thing if it happened to the Browns. I'd say the same thing if it happened to any other
Here's
team.
how I
He's
feel
cheap.
about it. Listen, when you had as many injuries as me, the Lord
Yeah.
has told me that I can put non-career-ending injuries on people. I wish you pull up with a hamstring.
I
TJ
hate
Watt.
T.J. Watt. And his
Not
sack dance
seriously
is,
torn.
he's got the lamest sack dance
Just-
in the
I
history
thought
of
you said
football.
career ending.
No, not career. Yeah, that's terrible.
I mean, look at that. Come on now.
And he
That's
puts
a total cheap shot.
This is well, that
Are
wasn't
you
that bad.
kidding me?
You know why he didn't get called is because
No, he got called for
he
it.
was
threw
gonna
his
say,
hand, or he won't get fined. Rather, he threw his hands up and tried to get his weight off of the quarterback.
That
That's a
wasn't
late
that
hit.
bad.
He got flagged for it.
I
Yeah.
just maybe a
He
spray.
won't
actually-
get fined for it. I don't think
It
that's a
actually
finable
didn't
hit.
look as bad as I remembered it.
I don't think that's a it's in
But
slow
he
motion.
threw
too,
him
Bull.
anyway.
It's in slow motion too.
Yeah.
That changes it.
It
And
actually
here's
didn't
the
look that bad.
punch.
He should not be
Bull.
suspended
Bull,
for
here's
that
the
or
punch.
fined.
I did think the punch she was trying to knock it out.
Yeah, I thought he was going for the ball.
I feel like he gets so many lucky breaks. Like quarterbacks run into him.
I think Pittsburgh gets all lucky breaks.
Man.
How about the no holding yesterday?
That
No one blocked you.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible. And Browning was playing decently, and they threw that pick. The Bengals were up 7 or up 3 or whatever, and the ball. I actually wanted the Bengals to lose because I want them to get a good draft pick. But
Dirty players tend to do it at the bottom of piles and discreetly, not out in the open like that. I think
He did something to Batonio last week that was pretty.
Yeah, I
iffy.
did see that.
He's a dirty
at
player.
at the legs.
who are you kidding?
Aggressive guy.
Grabbed Batonio's balls, I heard.
Wow.
That's what I heard.
Pause.
In that case, I can wish a mild growing pool. I hope you
You
get
might even
that.
go beyond mild.
Listen,
That when you do that's like
you might be
I'm
able
never
to,
saying anything about injuries again. Never.
the no touch zone. Yeah,
Oh, my
Bulls learned
God.
his lesson.
Hey, listen, shut up. Shut up. Listen, if you think that somebody in Pittsburgh is going to get somebody in Cleveland canceled, kick rocks. Same way y'all didn't cancel Roethlisberger. Denied. We're not canceling Bull for saying anything about injuries. Bye. You're just going to be mad. Why do people think it worked like that? Like they're going to say, you know what? Jay Crawford, I'm sorry. The Pittsburgh fans have spoken. You got to go.
Yeah.
We don't care about them.
There was another
TJ
game
Watt.
this weekend.
But neither of those plays was as dirty as I remembered. I will admit
when,
that.
when you're in the moment, it's
Heat of the
your
moment.
team that
Yeah.
you feel different.
It's funny because like right now I'm okay if the Bengals lost, but in the moment watching the game, I wanted them to win.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
Even
never.
though
I
can't
even when the
root-
Browns were 0-16.
While I'm watching the game, I can't root for my team to lose.
No.
But
No.
it's better for them at this point because they can't go. They're not going to the playoffs. And I want them to get a high draft pick.
Yeah.
Maybe
You in a
get
trash
Marvin
can?
Harris.
You all right?
What?
You in a trash can? You all
No,
right?
this is the burp.
Oh, they're not getting Marvin Harrison.
You never know.
I mean, they got a long way to go before they can think about getting Marvin
I
Harrison.
hope they don't. I wish they don't.
I saw
Who
something
knows?
about
Maybe
Marvin
Marvin Harrison get undervalued because his coach in college doesn't use him
I just
enough.
saw something about he's considering going back, which I can't believe is
No,
true.
listen, I heard before the Michigan game, people that know him were saying everybody putting him in the draft, that's a fait accompli. That's a mistake.
You know what the funny
I don't
thing-
know if that's, I don't know how accurate that is.
You know what the funny thing about that is? You guys believe that that's a possibility.
Well, no, I don't. I don't.
So here's what it comes down to.
Gene
In
and
this
Christmas.
rivalry, and we're going to talk about Ohio State next. In this rivalry, years down the road, your bragging point is what was your record against Michigan?
Tyvus still talks about it.
Exactly.
Right, but he can't
Now,
have a winning record anyway.
He can't, but he can
He can
win a
get
game.
one. He can get
He
one.
can win a
He
game.
won't if Ryan Day's still there.
And if you think that's not important, then you don't understand this rivalry.
I mean, we've seen Justin Herbert go back to school. Matt Leinart went back to
Right.
school. It's not out of the realm of possibility, I guess. But
especially
I would
now
be
when
surprised.
he's making money right now.
Right,
Like
right.
in the old days, I get it. You're looking at 0 versus potentially $10 million.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's really easy. But if you can secure NIL deals that can, and he's already over 7 figures, but if you can push him into a $3 or a $4 million range, and college football is that important to him, and he wants to roll the dice, I still think he's going.
I think he's
But
going to.
but I find it
I think he'd
interesting
be
that
crazy to stay.
I think it's
I
interesting
agree.
that there is discussion
Yeah.
that he might. At the end of the day, I think he's
Why
gone.
would you ever play for
long
free
gone.
when you could
Let-
get paid?
let-
He's not playing for free anymore.
Let's be
Well, he's
clear.
not getting paid by the school. He's making.
No, but he's getting NIL money.
I know, but he
So
can get. He can
who
get,
cares where the money comes from? It's money. It spends.
But he can make more in the NFL.
He could, but
Yeah.
the difference now is you can still walk away with a 7-figure bank account, where in the old days it made perfect sense.
I mean,
Perfect sense.
ask Justin Herbert. He went back to Oregon when he could have been a top 10 pick, top 5, top 10
Quarterbacks can have a 20-year career if they're
Let's
good.
be
pick.
clear.
And it could be one knee injury away from not
Wide
playing at all.
receivers don't have that long career.
Maserati Marv was already rich.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
Like, what do you who is
Maserati Marv.
Well,
But
listen,
it's different when it's
what
your
a
money
great
as
nickname.
opposed to daddy's money. That's different.
It is.
Yeah, it's not his.
But
Now,
when,
now in LeBron's case,
But when
his
you
kids
in-
are rich.
but when you in the
Because
hood-
the empire's that big.
Yeah.
when you in the hood and your dad is Marvin Harrison and you don't pay like you
Yeah, but
rich.
Marvin's never lived in the hood.
I know he's never
He's
going.
never been
if,
to the
If
hood.
Corey Crawford is rich, Maserati Marv is rich.
Well, listen, he's rich. If Corey's watching this right now, he's saying, I ain't rich.
Listen, I was cut off years
Dad's
ago.
kept all those dollars to himself.
I'm still trying to find out where that buried money is at. It ain't under the mattress.
Bull texted us on Saturday after the game, and he essentially said Ryan Day has to be fired. No ifs, no ands,
Wait,
no
what was
buts
that?
about it.
I didn't hear you.
After Ohio State lost to Michigan,
I seen
Yeah.
that.
for a third time, Bull texted us and said, point blank period, Ryan Day's
Oh,
got to
Bull
go.
said that.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
He's got to go.
And I know this huge.
Bull, camera's yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know this huge disagreement here, and I fully admit I'm not much of a college football fan. I'm not a big time, I'm not an authority in college football. I never pretend to be. I'm not a phony. However, I do know this, that all that matters is beating Michigan and winning playoff games. That's all that matters. I don't care. This is not the NFL where every game's up for debate as to who can win. His career record to me is meaningless. When you play the other teams in the Big Ten, that's like preseason football to me. That's like warming up for the season. The only games that matter are the college football playoffs and mostly Michigan. And since COVID, he's been awful. When he plays
Awful.
awful in the games that matter.
Oh, in the big games.
in the big
Yeah.
in the games that matter.
I don't even think he was awful last year against Georgia.
James Frank,
But that kicker makes that kick. They're national champions.
the ifs, ands, and buts. I don't care.
Well, it's not Ryan Day's fault the kicker missed the kick.
Jay, there's things along the way that maybe it shouldn't lead to that. Like maybe you go for it on 4th and inches around midfield. You're freaking Ohio State. You got the best skill position talent on the planet. And by the way, if the quarterback's not good enough, well, why don't you have a better one? And don't whine and cry to me about Quinn Ewers.
He picked the quarterback.
Exactly.
He did.
He picked the freaking quarterback. The bottom line is he is 2-6 against top 5 teams. Ohio State is at a different level. They're supposed to be. I thought that it was national championship or bust. Nobody cares if you beat Purdue. Obviously, some people do because half the fan base thinks I'm an idiot for saying I should fire him, and maybe I am.
No.
But
you want him fired?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow, that shocks me.
Listen,
No.
I did not think you would
none
go
of
there.
these games matter except for Michigan.
I tweeted after the game a picture of Apple Maps from Ohio Stadium to College Station, Texas, and said, "Who's up for splitting the drive? It's a long drive. Let's get on the road. Let's get them up out of
Do
here."
you realize that their season is not over?
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
They're not going to the playoff. I think you could build a case for them.
Oh, no.
To go to the playoff.
No, there's a path for the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's gonna take a lot.
So
for
what's
them.
the path for them to make the playoffs?
If Louisville loses, if Florida State loses and Washington loses, they're in.
Who's in the
And
pack?
by the way, crazier things have happened in college football.
That's not accurate
Why not?
because you still have a Texas team. You still
Wait. When it comes to the one-loss teams, and there's a number of them,
Yes.
the committee has always done it this way. Whose loss is most impressive? So
I'm just telling you that there's no way that's going to happen.
Listen, I talked
no
to
way it's
somebody
gonna happen.
last night.
What about
who
if Alabama
covers-
beats Georgia?
Who covers the commission, who covers this for a living. And they said there's absolutely a path for Ohio State
their odds,
to go.
I saw their odds were like 54% still to make it. It was like better
Yeah.
than half. But I still think he's got to go.
guys, and so either way, I think this notion that you fire him.
I thought he should have been fired last year. I said that
I know
on the show.
a lot of fans did.
I thought he should have been fired last year.
Who are you replacing him with? Because there's only one guy I'm firing him for.
Why?
One.
Do we know Ryan Day's a good coach?
So the devil you don't know is better than what you have?
When you are Ohio
How can you
State,
say that?
when you
Jay,
are
that all that matters is the games he's
No,
losing.
that's not all that matters.
Yes, it
That's
is.
nonsense.
It's not
Alabama,
nonsense.
if you could say if you're Alabama, the only thing that matters is beating Auburn and winning playoff games. So do you fire Nick Saban because
No,
he
because
lost
Nick
this
Saban,
year?
and how you compare that? Nick Saban's won
Saban's
multiple
won multiple
championships.
national
Understandable,
championships.
but in the moment, in the season,
Yeah.
you can't say that none of those other games matter.
They don't.
If they lose to Notre Dame, over. If they lose at Penn State,
Penn
over.
State, James Franklin is the worst coach I've ever seen, and he wins a ton of games because it's not apples to apples.
You got to
Jay.
win them. You got to win them.
Okay, but they don't mean anything.
You could get any coach besides Nick Saban or probably Dabo. Anybody else
Anybody.
you want will run to Columbus for
Do we
that
know
job.
Ryan
I'm
Day's
not
a
saying,
good coach?
no. Listen, I'm not saying you can't get someone to come there. What I'm saying is, before I fire a coach,
Yeah.
I have to have a replacement.
Okay.
And,
It's
there's
anybody I
one
want.
guy that. So you're telling me that you would take anybody?
No, I'm saying if they have a list. I mean, I'd want Vrabel. I'm in that.
He's
pool.
my guy.
I would want
He
Vrabel.
is my guy.
Yeah.
If I can get Vrabel, it's a done
And
deal.
listen, I don't know Mike at all. I talked to him briefly at the owners' meetings last year,
This job's very important to him.
and I would think he's got to know what he has in Tennessee. Like
does.
he's pretty much maxed out.
Yeah, they're not winning anything.
Like,
Don't nobody,
listen,
come on.
that's-
don't nobody
that's
care
why-
about Tennessee Titans football like
No,
that.
and in truth, Mike wants to win a Super Bowl as a coach. I get that. I
Sure.
understand that. But I know how Mike is wired. I know that Scarlet and Gray are through his veins. I covered him when he was a player. I got to know him much better since. That is his job. That's what he wants. Now, is he willing to leave Tennessee for that right now? I don't know.
I don't know either.
But if I'm the brass at Ohio State, I am at least talking to him.
You could get
to
any
see
coach,
if I can get him.
Absolutely. And
Whoever
if he
they
says
want,
no,
they'll get.
Short of that,
if he says no,
No.
you get whoever you
But
want.
you are going that under the
Absolutely
idea that
not.
Ryan Day is a great coach. We don't know if he is.
I'll tell you
He's
this.
never done anything anywhere else.
He's Larry Coker and Ron Zook right now.
he
That's
greatly
who he
trained
is.
Urban Meyer.
That's who he
To-
is.
to me-
Larry Coker won a national championship at Miami.
Guys-
And then when he had to do it on his own, what did he do?
To me, this may be controversial. I'd go get Urban Meyer again.
no, he ain't coming back.
I'd rather have Luke Fickell.
I'd call Herb.
Urban Meyer wouldn't come back.
I'd call Herb. I'd call him.
Urban's not coming back.
Listen,
Luke Fickell or Ryan Day. I'll
Luke
take
had
Luke
his
Fickell.
chance and it didn't
That
go
was an
well.
unfair
I
situation.
understand.
That was
I get it,
impossible
but
that
I'm
year.
just all right. Listen,
I
go
want a
ahead.
coach in Urban
Yeah.
Meyer who will be about to kill herself. Like, his health goes in the tank when he can play coach. That's how much it matters.
Drop him back up and ring out 3 more
Like with an oxygen tank.
You're right. He is not. Listen, this dude. Listen, you could tell. When you saw, he's like, Harbaugh is out here running it right now. He's like, give me another shot, bro. This, that, but listen, that NFL stuff, people forgot
Urban's
about
making
that.
too much money with no stress.
Maurice Claret was all over Twitter all weekend.
Killing.
Maurice
But by the way,
saying
he
got
pulled,
to go.
He pulled that back.
Oh,
you
did
know?
he?
Yeah,
I didn't
did.
see that.
Yeah, he pulled that
But
back.
listen,
Somebody pressured him.
No, he pulled it back.
Dave Briggs is columnist for the Toledo Blade, does a really nice job. And if you remember those late 90s Cooper teams that were just absolute juggernauts?
Loaded.
I covered them.
Okay,
Loaded.
listen to this. This blew my mind. John Cooper from 95 to 98, those massive teams, 43-7, 1-3 against Michigan, 3-4 against top 5 teams. Ryan Day in his last 50 games.
Wait, John Cooper was 1-9-1 against Michigan.
No. This is 95 to 98.
Okay, he had talent those other years too and lost.
Well, no, I'm just saying. John was 2-10-1. I covered the end of the Cooper
Yes.
years. He was 2-10-1 against Michigan. From 95 to 98, those powerful teams that should have won national championships. John went 43-7, 1-3 against Michigan, 3-4 against top 5 teams. Ryan Day, last 50 games, 43-7, 1-3 against Michigan, 2-5 against top 5
So you
teams.
fire him.
It's John Cooper all over again.
No,
if you
it's
look
not.
at those last 50
I know what John
But
Cooper
you know
looked
what?
like.
John actually built the program to a level. Ryan didn't build the program to that level.
No.
He got the keys to the Maserati.
He did.
And he keeps wrecking it.
And listen, that's whoever comes in is going to have that
Absolutely.
inherent recruiting
Yes.
advantage. However, this is where the game is different now. If you want to try to equate John Cooper and Ryan Day and maintaining greatness in the Buckeye tradition, with the state of college football where it is, if you make a change right now and the players have the ability that they do to move and leave and go, look out.
I was talking to
and
somebody.
that has to be taken into consideration.
I was talking to somebody over the weekend about, in fact, about the Vrabel thing. About, I don't know if Mike would want to deal with the fact that anybody can go into the transfer portal just like that.
It's awful, guys.
And I thought this was a good point. He said that doesn't really happen at Ohio. Like at Ohio State, unless it's the quarterback and it's Quinn Ewers and you lose your opportunity and you got to go play somewhere else. Ohio State doesn't really
Joe
lose
Burrow
a
did
ton
the
of
same
guys.
thing.
Right, but
Joe Burrow wasn't playing
but
for a couple
right.
years.
Well,
that's
what
the one
he's talking about.
No, but
Yeah.
that's the one position. Like, aside from that, I don't know if Ohio State has lost a ton of dues to the transfer portal because it's Ohio freaking State.
Well, so far they haven't. You're right.
Jay, when you look at the skill positions, you've probably had the 5 best receivers.
And they've wasted them.
Wait a minute. LSU's put out a lot of good receivers.
but
There's other good players in college football.
But I mean, when you
guys.
got Garrett Wilson, Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you lost, what's the name, the kid that went to Alabama?
the receiver got hurt. I forgot
No,
his name.
he came to Ohio State and transferred.
He transferred.
Right. Yeah,
And then you still had Maserati Marv.
Yeah.
You had them 5, Jamison Williams. You got them 5, and you had C.J. Stroud. And
You can't beat Michigan with C.J. Stroud.
That's crazy.
You have to look at how things are unfolding too. Last year, after he lost the Michigan game, there was cries last year too.
I thought they should have fired him last year.
He got into the Georgia game. They were a 14-point dog. What were they? Against Georgia.
They balled that game.
They should have won.
They
balled
played,
that game.
But they didn't.
The kicker missed.
It was from 50. It was like
Okay.
it was a long kick.
Kickers make 50-yard field
They
goals.
do.
Not
Not
regularly like it was
college.
63.
But
It
they
was
don't
a
regularly make
makeable
50-yarders in
So-
college.
So you say he should have been fired last year. How do you fire a coach that loses on a last-second missed field goal to the team that was talked about coming into the playoffs?
Because you lost to Michigan before that, and you lost to Michigan the year before that.
Okay,
and
so-
there's only like 2 or 3 games.
can't
Ohio
keep
State
losing
should
the
win.
games that
What
matter.
if they get in? Let's
Okay,
just play
all
this
right,
scenario
okay.
out.
I like
and
that.
they're the 4, and Michigan slips or goes to the 1.
And they win
somehow.
the whole thing.
What if?
All right, then he can stay.
Okay,
He just won a national
but if you
championship.
fire him, you don't get to that point.
Okay, fine. Then fire him in January, whatever. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying he can't come back. Remember, I said last year on the show, getting in was like a worst case scenario because if everyone wants to fire him now, and then if he loses to Georgia, they're really going to want to fire him.
Yeah.
I remember saying this on the show, and Maurice agreed with me. Like it was almost like a worst case scenario. Like once you get in, you got to win the whole thing, or it's even worse for you.
and
that's kind of how it turned out
I
to be.
think what the downfall
Yeah,
that
I
nobody's
disagree with
really
that.
talking about is they are regular on defense. That is not an Ohio State.
They let Michigan
million-
run the
No,
clock
they,
out
you know
on
what
That
they
is-
lack,
they are
which
regular.
haven't. Their defensive ends typically have been
dominant,
top tier. When you go back to the Bosa brothers, obviously,
corners.
Chase was special.
Corners used to be.
I don't know. What's Denzel Burke?
I don't know.
I think Denzel Burke's a pretty damn good player.
They paid a defensive coordinator $2 million to beat Michigan, and Michigan went right down their ass for the last 7 minutes of the game.
What's crazy to me is, like, Harbaugh withstood an awful start to his career at Michigan.
Because the program was a
It's
shambles
not
when he got there.
absolutely awful. You know it is, because expectations at Michigan are the same in Ohio. You're supposed to do one thing.
Yeah, but
beat Ohio State,
independently,
win playoff games.
Jay, independently, people have higher standards for Ohio State than Michigan.
And when
I
he
disagree.
but when he came in, the program was down here. Ryan Day came in, the program's up here.
That's right.
Jim
Yeah, but-
built it up here, and credit to Michigan for sticking with him to get it to this point.
And that's the
But
point.
Ryan came in here, and now it's here.
Great point.
It
went
is?
from here to yes.
Wow,
he's
it's not-
lost to Michigan 3 years in a row. I just read you. He's 2-3 against top 5 teams.
So you're literally gonna remember when Earl Bruce got fired. I don't know if you do. You
I
probably
remember.
too young.
I was young, but I remember.
And the narrative was, wow, 8-3, but beats Michigan, but you're gonna fire him. And so John Cooper came in, and John Cooper won everything.
Yep.
Except Michigan.
Except Michigan
And by
and
the way, he had a
national
terrible
titles.
record in bowl games.
And national
Terrible.
titles.
I would
That's
love
why.
to know what Ryan Day's record is in games where the point spread is a touchdown or less. Can't be very good.
I'm not,
Penn
this,
State, Notre Dame, those both
Yeah, those
wins.
were all.
Well, no, I'm just talking about overall during his time. I mean, though most of those other wins, any coach could beat those teams.
See, when you say that, Bull, it does
Yeah.
kind of expose your lack of college football awareness. And
No, it
here's
doesn't.
why.
No, it doesn't.
In Texas, you know what they say in Texas? You know what they say at USC, UCLA, Florida, Florida State, all the blue bloods. Look at Florida this year. Florida can't get it right. Florida is a mess.
You're gonna
Florida
compare
was a
Florida
blue
to
blood a
Ohio
decade
State?
ago. Florida was a decade ago. Florida was
Ohio State's been a blue blood forever.
Yes.
Florida State was a blue blood for how long?
So there's something
How
to
long was
say.
Florida?
But what I'm
blue
saying
blood?
is there's something to say it about keeping your team at that level.
But those Florida teams are also competing against each other for recruits.
they
just
always,
in state.
but Jason, they always did.
Yeah, and that's
They
why they-
always
and
did.
that's why they always
I'll
cycle.
give you two guys. Dabo Swinney is on the hot seat.
Dabo's not on a hot seat.
Yeah. I completely.
Dabo's just a placeholder until Saban retires.
And Jimbo Fisher got
He's
fired.
gone. He's
and
gone.
Jimbo had top 1, 2, 3 classes, best facilities.
Jimbo should be gone.
And he won a national championship, right?
But Jimbo should be gone.
But if you could get rid of Jimbo Fisher with all that money they owed him, and he had #1 recruiting classes, it's coming.
Money's not an
Mike
option.
I
knows.
just don't know.
It's Ohio State.
I
Money's
just
not an
don't know what
option.
he has his hat to hold on. Ryan Day beating Purdue and Penn State.
And Penn State, congratulations. Penn
Okay,
State, Notre
good for
Dame.
him.
Notre
There you
Dame
go.
on the road, Penn State on the road, close games, both of them at the time, top 10 teams.
Yep.
I think Penn State was 5.
Either of those teams going to the playoffs? No.
No, but Bull, what you're saying is it doesn't matter if you hold serve because you're supposed to hold serve. What I'm saying is they say that in Texas. They say that in Alabama, which didn't hold serve this year. They say that for years they said that at Florida.
Those are bad comparisons, Jay.
Why? They're all college
The
blue
Alabama
bloods.
Alabama.
They are.
Alabama is
Texas isn't?
not the same level as Ohio State. Texas hasn't
Wait a
been
minute.
good forever.
Texas.
I think they are.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Jay's-
When's the last time Texas was good?
Bull,
When's the
06?
last time Texas was
Bull,
good?
06.
go to Texas.
When
and
is
tell
the
me that
last
the
time Texas
expectations
was good?
now. They're good now.
Okay, and they hadn't been good for 20 years.
Have they been irrelevant for 20 years?
They've been pretty bad for the last decade.
They've
Yeah,
been bad.
Mac-
Okay,
when
they've been
Mac Brown
irrelevant
retired.
for the last
They've been
20
irrelevant.
years.
When Mac Brown retired.
Ohio State's
Mac
been a
Brown
blue
had
blood
a-
for 70
playing for
years.
championships.
Jay, do you agree that Ohio, when you put "the" in front of it, and as they say, the world famous Ohio State standards is tippy
right.
top.
But
Tip-
so they're not at Michigan?
No, they're higher. They're higher than Michigan.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
What are they at USC?
they're higher than USC.
What are they at
USC's been
Texas?
crap for 20
At
years.
LSU? At Alabama?
I think they're higher than
At-
LSU. I would put
Are they higher
Ala-
than they are at Alabama?
No, Alabama and Ohio State
That's
are on
it.
a different level.
I think
They're on a
Yeah, but
different level.
I think if you look right now at the teams that are best positioned in college football, if you're going to tell me that Ohio State isn't one of them, and I'm saying top 5, like they're perennially there. So if you're going to make a move, what it really, and that's why I'm surprised you say make it. To me, as a Buckeye fan, I have been somewhat embarrassed by the fan base for a long time because overly entitled. It's hard to be this good for this long.
But that's the standard.
Ask Florida.
That's why you're making $9 million.
have to
That's
prove
the
it.
standard.
Florida was winning titles a decade ago.
With Spurrier, and then when Spurrier left.
No, I mean even more recently than that.
with Herb,
With
yeah.
Urban, they were a. And by the way, when you pass the baton, that's when you know you've got a program that's not on autopilot, because today that is out the window. Autopilot before used to be like players were stuck, they couldn't leave. We're in a different era.
Ryan Day
We're in a
coaches,
different time.
he coaches in a gutless way. We saw it in this game. They lost this game because he was gutless as a coach. He didn't go for it. Michigan did. They were the tougher
You're
team and they won
underestimating
it.
Michigan's talent.
No, I'm
they
not.
Lost
No, they're
this
good.
game.
Michigan's really good.
They lost.
Michigan's
They're
really good.
great.
Yeah.
They're not good.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, they
So
are.
is Ohio
and they
State.
lost this game
Because
you
they
really
were-
want to know why? Because they played at Michigan. Anybody that knows this rivalry knows how difficult it is to go into one of the other stadiums. That's why for years they would checkerboard the schedule. There were coaches in the 80s and 90s that used to love to have those senior-laden classes in the odd years when they got the home game.
Yeah.
It is a big deal.
Then I guess you should
Yeah,
have got
it
your
wasn't a
pants
big
pulled
deal
down
for
at
the last
home last
20
year.
years.
when
That-
you
that's-
Sixth
that's
round.
why last year was tough.
That's the one that was
it's-
inexcusable to me.
It's just a cumulative effect for me.
It is.
I've seen enough.
It is, but see, that's the entitled Ohio State fan base saying, wait, we should win it every year.
Not
That's
every year.
obscene.
Not every year.
To think that you
But
should
with the
be
talent
in the
they had
top
last year.
4 every year.
Not every year.
It's obscene.
Not every year.
They were
No, it's
last
not.
year.
I think they should be
No,
in it every
you're
year.
going to have a down cycle every now
No,
and then.
well, you
but
can't. That's not realistic.
You can't lose
It's
three.
not.
You can't lose 3 in a row to
There are
Michigan.
32 teams in the NFL. Imagine going what the Chiefs have done. That's why it's such a mind blow.
Yeah.
They go to the AFC Championship game every year. That's dynastic.
And that's unbelievable in the NFL. College is different.
It is,
I don't
but-
expect them to be in the top 4 every
Yeah, it's
year.
easier in college.
But you
because
can't lose 3 in a
can't.
row to
Only a
Michigan.
few teams.
I
that
know
see
you,
it.
you have an understanding of that, of the difficulty of
Oh, of course.
being in a
All right,
team
hey,
has been in the
folks,
playoffs.
enjoy those
more
Purdue
than Ohio
wins.
State.
Next
Keep
year,
racking up Indiana.
next
And
year's-
Notre Dame and Penn State and
They
being
beat Notre-
relevant.
Who cares about
And
Penn
being
State?
relevant?
Penn State
Next
is a
year-
joke.
Penn State is mid.
They're
Next-
They're not
They
mid. You
are
know what they
mid.
are? They're stuck. Imagine if Penn State was Iowa, and they got the West schedule.
State is Iowa.
And they got no,
There's
they're
no
not.
difference.
No, they're not. So the conference right now, I'm telling you,
There's
that
only
Michigan
2
game
teams.
is going to be Iowa game is going to be tricky.
Next year, when they ain't got that pipeline and all them Urban Meyer recruits is
Oh,
out
yeah,
here,
screwed. They're going
you
down
got it.
too.
It's going to be on.
Look, wait a minute. Wait. There's still top 3 recruiting classes the last 3 years.
But
Then why
Those are
can't they
Ryan Day.
win?
There's
But-
Ryan Day. They're winning.
But
Not when it matters.
Why can't they win? They're 11-1. That is
Who
overly
cares?
entitled.
They win
Why
preseason
can't they
games.
win? Did they lose to Penn State and Notre
Who cares?
Dame? Now we got a
Those
conversation.
teams aren't any good. There's 3 good teams, 5 good teams.
Mike's gonna
They're not
tear his
any good.
rotator
I got
cuff. We
super
got 3
chat. We
minutes.
got to get in here. This is the best Ohio State conversation we've had in a long time, and I appreciate you guys for coming with different perspectives.
Did we do
super
a poll,
chats
by
today.
the way?
Yeah, we do. I'll get the poll results at the very
On
end.
Ryan Day being fired?
Yep, I'll give you those
Okay.
at the very end. But
I'd like to see
PCC Air
that.
Force brings us a poll result and super chat today. So if you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, for benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. DBDog21 says, G made a great point on Twitter about Stefanski auditioning DTR to see what he has because he needed to know what he has in a quarterback going down the
You made that on the
stretch.
show, too.
I did. I
James
brought that
Cosby
here.
said, I was surprised to see the Donkeys be so much more physical than the Browns. They sent half our team to
was
the
too.
hospital. Where'd our toughness go?
I was surprised by that as well.
Kevin Robinson said, we are cursed with injuries, but at least Tillman looked good. Halim Youssef says, no amount of stats or evidence in the world is going to stop G&J from saying we should have ran it more. You can show them 8, 9, 10 guys in the box. They don't care, LOL.
I just care about the 7 yards per carry that Ford was getting.
Josh
you can't
E
see
says-
that. I can't talk with you about it. If you can't
Jay,
see
for the last 2
that
weeks-
they were having success running the ball, I can't have a conversation with you.
In fairness, when we were arguing about the Browns' running game being good, you said yards per carry didn't matter.
Hey.
Only that mattered was the total yardage. You said that.
For the season. For the season.
Okay.
And by the way, if you look at their total yards on the number of carries they have, you have to boil
Hey.
it down to yards per
Back-
because it's such a small number.
But you said that wasn't important
Back
when
in
we
the
brought it
day,
up.
I
back
still
in-
want the total number.
Back in the day when we was in the club,
Yeah.
if the pretty girl had 8 dudes around them, I don't care about them 8 dudes. I'm me. I'm going to talk. Y'all can let.
Preach it.
What we
I got
talking
a couple
about?
more.
8 man in a box?
Josh Z says Pete Carroll did not hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl.
Great
Coaches
analogy.
make terrible play calls, even in the biggest spots. The injuries were more than our head coach. Esco says I'll take DTR over 3 former first-round picks: Mac Jones, Kenny Pickett, and Zach Wilson. DP Dog says Tyvis said they will be locked in because of the loss. Kenneth Yabo says, not counting yesterday, the Browns have 26 drop passes this season. That's second most in the league behind the Chiefs. How do you fix it?
They're probably number 1 after yesterday.
Get DeAndre
I didn't watch the
Hopkins.
Chiefs game. I have no idea what that number would be. I could look it up, though. Evan419 says, give me some realistic coaching options if you fire Ryan Day, Vrabel. Who else?
Anybody you want?
Anybody you want.
See, now that is half
You got the bag. You got the
I
bag.
got 2 more real quick. Hey, let me get these
Bowling
last
Green
2
State
in.
is
His
available.
point
I
is
gotta get these
anybody
last
that
2 in.
Ohio State wants.
Michael McGee says if you fire Ryan Day, I'd look at Jimbo Fisher. You don't want that, trust me.
No.
MBell Man 967 says Jay demeaning Bulls college football knowledge while also saying Michigan has the same standards as OSU is insane.
Go ask them in Ann Arbor what their standards are.
And last one real quick.
They've got
Michael
more wins
McGee
than any
says,
team in college football.
I would
you
also
moron.
consider Vrabel, Eddie George, or Freeman from Notre
Their
Dame.
standards are
Knows what Ohio
lower, but
State
they've got
culture
more
is.
wins than everybody.
They play more.